Fu Huijin and I are in an arranged marriage. In my past life, I failed to see our marriage for what it was, a business transaction. Not only did I foolishly yearn for his love, I also wanted us to be a normal, loving couple. I even put on airs as the legitimate wife, repeatedly causing trouble for his cherished first love. In the end, I successfully ruined the marriage and, along with it, the partnership between our two families. When my family went bankrupt and I was hounded to death by debt collectors, Fu Huijin soared to become the wealthiest man, marrying his one true love and achieving success in both career and romance. When I opened my eyes again, I had gone back to the first time I cornered Fu Huijin and his beloved in the private room of the club. Fu Huijin frowned at me. When Ning, we had an agreement before our marriage of convenience, apart from necessary public appearances. We are not to interfere in each other's private lives. What is the meaning of this? As he spoke, his voice was laced with suppressed fury, but in my past life, not only did I fail to pick up on it, I arrogantly slapped his beloved white moonlight in my capacity as Mrs. Fu, thus embarking on a path of self-destruction. I recalled the gruesome scene of my death, my car, fleeing from debt collectors, careening off a cliff in a panic. I quickly waved my hands in protest. Whoa. Don't get the wrong idea, I'm just in the wrong room. Please, carry on. Don't worry, I understand the decorum expected in an arranged marriage. I backed out of the private room, thoughtfully closing the door behind me, and immediately went to find a few of my favorite male models. With all this money, free time, and a husband who's never home, in my past life, I must have been out of my mind to desperately crave Fu Huijin's love. After taking a few sips of wine while absently tracing the contours of the bartender's abs, I received a voice message from my best friend, Lu Qingqing. Ning, please tell me you didn't actually go to the club to confront Fu Huijin and Suing. Don't do anything rash. Everyone in our circle knows Suing is Fu Huijin's one true love, his white moonlight. If you lay a finger on her, he'll make your life hell. It's just a marriage of convenience. Don't take it so seriously. Her words were crystal clear, but in my past life, I didn't listen. In my past life, I was fully aware that after Fu Huijin lost both parents at 13, he had been living with Su Ying's family, and the bond between him and Suing was extraordinary. Yet, as if I had lost my mind, I not only agreed to the arranged marriage but also went out of my way to make trouble for Suing after the wedding. That time I cornered Fu Huijin and Suing at the club. I slapped Suing in my capacity as Mrs. Fu. After that, Fu Huijin forced me to kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days, and the Wen family was compelled to concede 5 percentage points in the cooperative project. While I was consumed with resentment over Fu Huijin's favoritism towards Suing, I completely failed to realize that very concession had sown the seeds for the Wen family's eventual bankruptcy. Remembering my fate in my past life, hounded to death by debt collectors, sends a chill down my spine. I hurriedly replied to Lu Qingqing, I'm not that foolish, it's just a marriage of convenience. Who cares about his white moonlight or black moonlight? As long as Fu Huijin keeps advancing our joint venture and I keep raking in the profits, I couldn't care less about the rest. To prove I was genuinely carefree, I even went out of my way to take a few photos of the handsome guys and sent them to Lu Qingqing. Lu Qingqing was absolutely thrilled when she saw the photos. She praised me for having my head screwed on right and immediately decided to come hang out with me. I sent her my location, and not long after, the door to the private room swung open, but the person who walked in wasn't Lu Qingqing. Fu Huijin stood at the doorway, his tall, straight frame outlined by a black suit, a chill seeming to cling to him. His gaze swept over the scattered wine glasses and a few male models in the private room before finally settling on me, his voice low and dark. Having fun, I was taken aback for a moment, then quickly nodded. I am happy, but my happiness is merely a matter of quantity. It can't compare to having your beloved Miss Su by your side. I'm not sure which part of what I said displeased Fu Huijin, but the chill around him grew even more intense. In the past, seeing him like this, I would have immediately rushed over to fuss over him and try to cheer him up, but now, I just stared at him blankly. So he came all this way just to ask if I was having a good time. Puzzled, I gave Brother Mosey's abs another feel. Fu Huijin suddenly moved. He took a few steps closer to me and said coldly, there are media outside the club, we need to put on a show. It suddenly dawned on me, no wonder he ditched Suing. It's because the press is outside. He only came to me because he's afraid the media will catch something they shouldn't, sparking a scandal that could jeopardize the Fu-Wen partnership. When it comes to business, I don't mess around. I stood up promptly and offered the guys at the table an apologetic smile. Sorry, everyone, something's come up, let's catch up another time. Before I could even finish saying date, Fu Huijing grabbed my wrist and pulled me out of the private room. Faced with his complete lack of chivalry, I could only pout in helpless frustration. Once outside the club, I looked around. Forget the paparazzi. There wasn't a soul in sight. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. "Where are the reporters?" Fu Huijing didn't respond. After the valet brought the car around, he gallantly opened the door for me and ushered me inside. His movements were so natural, as if we truly were an intimate, inseparable couple. But I knew better. He was merely putting on an act. Fu Huijing never did say where the media was, and I couldn't be bothered to press him further. He wouldn't be so bored as to lie to me about something like this. The paparazzi are probably lurking around some corner. It was only after Fu Huijing got into the car that I realized this was the first time in the 6 months since our arranged marriage that we were alone together. In my past life, I would have treasured this opportunity, going to great lengths to present myself in the best light, hoping to win Fu Huijing's heart. But now, I couldn't be bothered. As soon as the car started moving, the alcohol hit me, without saying a word. I just leaned back against the seat and fell asleep. When I woke up again, the car had already arrived at South Lake Villa. South Lake Villa was the marital home for Fu Huijing and me, but I was the only one who ever lived there. Fu Huijing, on the other hand, lived in a luxury penthouse near the Fu Group, right next door to Su Ying. Not expecting Fu Huijing to keep up the gentlemanly act and open the car door for me, I pushed it open myself and hopped out lightly. I had only taken a few steps when I realized Fu Huijing had gotten out of the car too. Seeing this, I was momentarily stunned. "Fu Huijing, aren't you staying at the penthouse tonight?" Fu Huijing gave me a brief, indifferent glance. Without a word, he continued walking into the villa. Since the villa was our shared marital property, I couldn't very well argue. I had no choice but to follow him. Once inside, I was just about to ask Nanny Zhang to make me some hangover soup when Fu Huijing cut me off. "It's too late to bother anyone, I'll make it for you." He rolled up his sleeves and walked into the kitchen. Watching his busy figure from behind, my heart gave a painful little tug. Fu Huijing was always like this. He clearly didn't love me, yet in private, he would always do these tender, caring things, like this hangover soup. Or like when he held my hand during our wedding and told me not to be nervous. That's exactly why, in my past life, I mistakenly believed we could have a normal marriage. That's also why, despite our prenuptial agreement to not interfere in each other's private lives, I kept throwing my weight around as Mrs. Fu, picking fights with Su Ying until I successfully brought about my own downfall. The thought of that tragic ending, my family ruined and scattered, weighed heavily on my heart. And my attitude towards Fu Huijing soured considerably. After he finished making the hangover soup and brought it to me, I drank it in silence without so much as a word of thanks, then headed upstairs to sleep. Fu Huijing followed me upstairs. Just as I was about to close the bedroom door behind me, I saw him stop right outside, looking for all the world like he intended to share the room. I gave a self-deprecating laugh. As if that would ever happen. Fu Huijing is so incredibly proper. Aside from Su Ying, there's never been another woman around him. There's no way he'd actually want to share a room with me, right now. At most, he's just seeing my drunk self back to my room out of basic courtesy and good upbringing. I didn't want to misunderstand again, so I said flatly, "This is far enough." Then I shut the door right in Fu Huijing's face. Before closing the door, I didn't miss the look of shock in Fu Huijing's eyes, but I couldn't be bothered to dwell on what had startled him, and simply went to bed. By the time I woke up again, the sun was already high in the sky. Seeing my phone flooded with messages from Lu Qingqing, it finally dawned on me. I had arranged to meet Lu Qingqing at the club yesterday, but before she even arrived, Fu Huijing whisked me away. I immediately apologized to Lu Qingqing and explained what happened yesterday. Lu Qingqing replied quickly, "Fu Huijing took you away. He wasn't jealous because you had a male model by your side, was he?" I was completely speechless when I saw the message. Well, I'll be damned. Lu Qingqing is starting to daydream. After my chat with Lu Qingqing, I went downstairs to eat, but then I found Fu Huijing, dressed in loungewear, sitting on the sofa reading financial reports. I couldn't help but pause in surprise. This had never happened before. Fu Huijing was a complete workaholic. He'd even interrupted the wedding vows to take a work call. For him to not be working like this today was a first. I asked with a hint of worry in my voice, "Fu Huijing, is the Fu Group going bankrupt?" Forgive me for jumping straight to bankruptcy, but the trauma from the Wen family's collapse in my past life was just too deep. Fu Huijing set down the documents and looked up at me, his eyes holding an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. "No, I just felt like giving myself a day off today." "I see," I breathed a sigh of relief. Alright then. Just tell Auntie Zhang what you'd like to eat today. And she'll make it for you. With that, I hurriedly drank my milk and got ready to head out. Fu Huijin was visibly taken aback. You're not staying home today. I was busy changing my shoes and didn't even look up at him. That's right, I have something to do. With that, I walked straight out the door, completely oblivious to the strange look on Fu Huijin's face behind me. I drove straight to my parents' villa. As soon as I stepped inside, I saw Mom watering the flowers in the garden, while Dad was sitting in the pavilion nearby, enjoying his tea. Watching them in the sunlight, I felt a sudden lump in my throat. In my previous life, when the car crash happened, my parents didn't think of themselves. They both threw themselves over me, trying to use their own bodies to buy me a chance to survive. Sadly, I couldn't fulfill their wish. Not long after watching them take their last breaths, I too slipped away. Ning, why are you crying? Mom spotted me. Quickly put down the watering can, and came over to wipe my tears. I shook my head and hugged her. Mom, I'm okay, I just missed you. Only then did Mom relax, and she affectionately booped my nose. My parents were over the moon that I was home. Even though it wasn't lunchtime yet, they immediately started bustling about to prepare a feast. Sitting at the table, looking at all my favorite dishes spread out before me, my heart swelled with warmth, but my eyes soon welled up with tears again. I took my parents' hands and said with the utmost seriousness, Mom, Dad, regarding the Wen and Fu family collaboration, don't pour all the capital into it, set aside a portion for new energy projects. That sector is going to explode in the future. 3. Mom and Dad were immediately worried. Ning, what's wrong? Did Fu Huijin do something to you? It's no wonder they thought that, every time I came back before, I would sing nothing but praises for Fu Huijin. Hoping to secure our arranged marriage more tightly through deeper business collaboration, I completely ignored the risk assessments my parents provided, stubbornly pushing them to keep pouring funds into the joint venture. In the end, I even demanded they invest all of the Wen family's liquid assets into our partnership project. That's precisely why, after the deal fell through in my past life, the Wen family business hurtled toward bankruptcy, dragging the three of us down with it. This is actually the first time I've ever advised them to scale back their investments. I looked at them earnestly. Mom, Dad, I was immature before, using the Wen family as a bargaining chip in my own games. I won't do that again. To my surprise, my parents shed tears of relief upon hearing this. That's wonderful, they said. Our Ning has grown up. I wiped their tears away and added, also, I want to come back to work at Wen Corp. I'll start in the marketing department and help share the load. In my past life, my parents had asked me many times to come work at the family business, but I was completely obsessed with Fu Huijin and paid no attention to our own company. Now, with the memories from my past life and knowledge of future market trends, it's only natural that I help our company grow. Though my parents were surprised, they've always supported all my decisions without hesitation, and they agreed right away. The three of us had a lovely, cozy dinner together as a family. Since I had to report to Wins the next day, I just decided to stay at my parents' place for the night. Lying in bed that night, I was surprised to get a message from Fu Huijin. It's so late, aren't you coming back? I was taken aback. This was the first time Fu Huijin had taken the initiative to message me since our arranged marriage. Before this, it had always been me performing a one-man show. Wait, is he still at the South Lake Villa? Why, Fu Huijin is acting so strangely. I can't help but overthink it. Did he have a fight with Su Ying? Is he trying to use me to make her jealous? Yeah, that's probably it. I pursed my lips. That scheming man. I'm not foolish enough to get caught in the middle of their mess again, in this new life. I have a very clear understanding of my role. I'm just the pawn linking the Fu and Wen family's alliance. As for the marriage, I'll just coast through it. I didn't reply to Fu Huijin. I just turned off my phone, went to sleep, and reported to the Wen Corporation the next day. Things didn't go smoothly in the marketing department. At first, everyone saw me as a spoiled rich girl who was parachuted in just to mess around, and they didn't let me get anywhere near a real project. It wasn't until I leveraged my memories from my past life and presented a proposal capable of bidding for the Lin family's smart home project that everyone in the marketing department finally started to take me seriously. The funny thing is, I originally knew absolutely nothing about smart home projects. In my past life, I saw Fu Huijin struggling desperately with this project, wanting to help him. I forced myself to learn everything about it and ended up creating a proposal that was stunning enough to blow everyone away. When I presented the proposal to Fu Huijin, the delight in his eyes was unmistakable, but in the end, just because of Su Ying's remark, I don't want Wen Ning using this as a reason to cling to you. He abandoned my plan without a second thought and opted for a comparatively dull alternative, although we ultimately won the bid. Our partnership with the Lin Group was plagued by constant friction due to the proposal's shortcomings. As for my own proposal, I had thought its usefulness had come to an end. I never imagined that after my rebirth, this would become the very foundation that allowed me to establish myself firmly in the marketing department, on the day our smart home project successfully won the bid. Everyone in marketing stopped calling me the insincere miss and started addressing me with genuine respect as Sister Ning. Hearing that, I couldn't help but be deeply moved. In my past life, when I was constantly chasing after Fu Huijin trying to win his favor, I could never have dreamed that one day I would achieve such success on my own. It was like I was given a shot of adrenaline, and I was full of drive and energy for a long time afterward. I left early and returned late every day. And when I got back to the South Lake Villa, I'd quickly wash up and go straight to bed. Then one day, I finished work early and came home to find Fu Huijin sitting at the dining table, having dinner. I was stunned for a moment. Fu Huijin, don't tell me you've been living here all this time. Fu Huijin glanced up coolly, giving me a look that said, obviously. I was even more confused, hesitating for a moment. I walked over and, in the spirit of friendly cooperation, asked, did you have a fight with Su Ying? Do you need me to help mediate? But if you do, you'd better not actually ask. I was just being polite. Fu Huijin stared at me with a complicated look in his eyes, his tone tinged with a kind of exasperated disappointment. Wen Ning, is that really what you want? For me to be with Su Ying? I was at a loss for words. What do you mean, what I want? That's just the way it is. I desperately wanted to argue back. But seeing the frost settle over Fu Huijin's expression, I wisely held my tongue. The entire meal was incredibly awkward. As soon as it was over, I made to head upstairs to my room, but Fu Huijin suddenly called out to me, there's a charity auction tomorrow, we're required to attend together. I gave a slow, understanding nod. Got it. Time for the arranged marriage couple to put on their lovey-dovey act again. 4. On the way to the auction the next day, the car once again became a private space for just Fu Huijin and me. Just as I was about to doze off again, Fu Huijin suddenly took out a booklet and handed it to me. Here's the catalog for today's auction. If you see anything you like, just let me know. I'll bid on it for you. I raised an eyebrow, took the catalog, but didn't open it. It wasn't that I wasn't interested in the items, I just knew that, interested or not, none of them would ever be mine, in my past life, at this very same auction. I had my eye on a sapphire necklace. After several rounds of bidding, Fu Huijin didn't hesitate to light the sky lantern. Back then, everyone looked at me with envy, and the internet was flooded with stories about how Fu Huijin doted on his wife. After receiving the sapphire necklace, I was overjoyed, believing I had finally won Fu Huijin's heart, but it wasn't until the arranged marriage ended, the Wen family went bankrupt and was hounded by debt collectors, that I thought of using this necklace to settle the debts. Only then did I realize the necklace Fu Huijin gave me was nothing but a fake. The genuine one, however, was worn around Su Ying's neck on the very day he married her. Recalling how I was hounded by debt collectors to the point of breaking down, I couldn't help but let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. Noticing I hadn't opened the booklet, Fu Huijin looked puzzled. What's the matter? Not interested in the auction, I said flatly. Interested or not, I have to attend. After all, us showing up together is part of the whole marriage alliance routine. Don't worry, I know the drill. I won't make things difficult for you. Fu Huijin's fingers on the steering wheel stilled for a moment. He said through gritted teeth, you really are the picture of professionalism. Absolutely. We soon arrived at the auction venue. During the bidding, I wondered if my changes had set off a butterfly effect. This time, Fu Huijin did not raise his paddle to bid, and the sapphire necklace was ultimately won by a middle-aged man. Feeling a bit stiff from sitting, I told Fu Huijin and headed to the restroom. When I returned to the auction hall, I saw Fu Huijin's personal assistant rushing over in a panic. Madam, Mr. Fu isn't feeling well, you should go see him right away. I followed him and found that Fu Huijin had already been moved to a private lounge. He leaned back in his chair, his face pale and his temples beaded with sweat. After examining him, the doctor said with a grave expression, something was added to Mr. Fu's champagne. Rather than seeking medical treatment, it would be better for you, Mrs. Fu, to take care of him directly. His meaningful look made me quickly realize what he meant by take care of. In my past life, I would have thrown myself into the fray without a second thought, but now, I just found it a hassle. I pulled out my phone, called Su Ying, and had her come over. These kinds of matters are better left for the lovebirds to sort out themselves. Suing arrived quickly. After taking Fu Huijin from me, she shot me a challenging look. Smart move, calling me at a time like this. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Just as I was about to leave, a message from Lu Qingqing popped up. Ning Ning, are you at the auction? The place is swarming with reporters. It looks like they're after Fu Huijin. Be careful. I looked up and peered out through the floor-to-ceiling window. Sure enough, I could make out a few figures holding cameras. Lurking in the shadows, my heart sank as I immediately realized this was a setup deliberately targeting Fu Huijin, an attempt to capture a scandal involving the Fu family. The collaboration between the Fu and Wen families was still ongoing. If the Fu family got dragged into a scandal, the Wen family would inevitably suffer the fallout, so not only could I not abandon Fu Huijin and leave right now, I also had to create the illusion that I had been with him the whole time. I felt a surge of irritation, but after considering the partnership between our families, I bit my tongue and endured it. I booked a room right next to Fu Huijin's, worried I might overhear something I shouldn't. I even brought earplugs to bed, but whether it was the earplugs doing their job or the walls being thick, I didn't hear a single thing all night. The next morning, I knocked on Fu Huijin's door. It took quite a while before Fu Huijin finally came to answer it. He looked terrible. Wrapped in a bathrobe that seemed to radiate a chill, his hair was soaking wet. Anyone would have thought he'd just been pulled from the water. I glanced around the room, but there was no sign of Su Ying. Puzzled, I asked, "Where's Miss Su?" Fu Huijin grabbed my hand and yanked me into the room. The door slammed shut behind me with a heavy thud. He shoved me hard against the door, pinning me there. His eyes burned into mine, filled with a fury I couldn't comprehend. Wen Ning, are you really so eager to push me towards someone else? Don't forget, you are my wife. 5. Suddenly, I felt like I no longer understood Fu Huijin. When I embraced my role as Mrs. Fu and wanted us to be a normal couple, he threw our prenuptial agreement of non-interference in each other's private lives back in my face. In my past life, to avenge Su Ying, he methodically drove me to utter ruin. Now I see our marriage of convenience for what it is, and I know my place. All I want is for our family's collaboration to go smoothly, yet he's furious, accusing me of failing in my duties as a wife. No matter what I do, it's never good enough for Fu Huijin. I shoved Fu Huijin away, putting distance between us, and stared at him with an impassive face. Fu Huijin, our arrangement was crystal clear from the start. We stay out of each other's private lives except for necessary public appearances. The only reason I stayed last night was to avoid a media scandal that could jeopardize our partnership. Our marriage was nothing but a business deal from the start. Once the collaboration between the Fu and Wen families concludes, we'll get a divorce. Don't act like I'm pushing you towards someone else. Once we're divorced, won't you just go back to suing anyway? So let's cut the vague, sentimental talk. All we need to do is keep up appearances as a respectable couple until the divorce is final. That's enough, isn't it? By the end, I was both furious and felt a grim sense of satisfaction. All the cold shoulders, the targeted hostility, being driven to the brink of ruin, I had endured it all passively. Now, it's finally my turn to take the initiative. I thought it was a mutual understanding between Fu Huijin and me that we'd divorce once our partnership ended. But he just stared at me for a long time, his gaze growing colder by the second until only disappointment remained, his voice low. Is that really all you want, to get a divorce? I nodded. As it should be. Fu Huijin said nothing more. He opened the door and showed me out. I took a look and saw that the media had already cleared out from downstairs, not wanting to engage with Fu Huijin any further. I left directly for work at Wen Corporation. I didn't see Fu Huijin again for the next several days. He also stopped inexplicably going back to live at the South Lake Villa. I was quite content with my newfound freedom, immersing myself in the Wen group from dawn till dusk every day, relying on memories from my past life. I successfully helped the Wen group secure several major contracts. Just as my career was taking off, I had just gotten home from work one day when I received a call from Fu Huijin's good friend, Chen Mo. Wen Ning, we're having a gathering today. Huijin is drunk and absolutely refuses to let any of us near him. Could you come pick him up? I frowned. You've got the wrong person. If it's about Fu Huijin, you should be talking to Su Ying. He and I are just a marriage of convenience. Su Ying is the one he's truly in love with, his cherished first love. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before Chen Mo's voice came through, tinged with disbelief. Su Ying, what are you talking about? Huijin's first and only love has always been you. I was completely stunned. I am Fu Huijin's cherished one. That statement is as absurd as a fairy tale. In my past life, For Su Ying's sake, he forced me to kneel in the ancestral hall, humiliated me with a counterfeit gift, and brought ruin upon my family, so now his best friend is telling me that I was his one that got away all along. How ridiculous. Wen Ning, are you still there? Chen Mo's voice carried a hint of urgency. Huai Jin is really in a bad way. If you really don't come, we'll have no choice but to drag him to a hotel, but he keeps calling your name. I closed my eyes for a moment and finally relented. Send me the address. I'm on my way. Let's just say it's for the sake of our family's partnership. I quickly made my way to the address Chen Mo had given me. As soon as we arrived, Chen Mo spotted me instantly. He immediately pushed through the crowd, rushed over, and pointed towards a corner booth. Huai Jin's over there. He won't budge no matter what I say, insists on waiting for you. Following his gesture, I saw Fu Huijin slumped over the booth's sofa. The collar of his black shirt was slightly undone, and he was unconsciously clutching a glass. 6. I walked over and patted him on the shoulder. Fu Huijin, time to get up, let's go home. He slowly lifted his head, his gaze vacant and unfocused. I even doubted whether he could recognize who had come to pick him up. He spoke up, his voice thick with hurt. Ning Ning, didn't you say you didn't want me anymore? Why did you come? Ning Ning, he means Ying Ying, right? He really must be drunk. He can't even get his words straight. I didn't want to pretend to be suing to answer him. I just silently helped him up and, with the assistance of his good buddy, managed to wedge him into the passenger seat, just as I was about to close the car door. Fu Huijin suddenly reached out and hooked his fingers into the hem of my clothes. I looked down at him. His eyelashes were long, casting a small shadow beneath his eyes, making him look like a wrong child. Ning Ning, please don't leave me. Okay. My heart gave a violent lurch, as if stung by something. I quickly pinched my own palm to remind myself. Wen Ning, don't flatter yourself. He was calling for Ying Ying, not Ning Ning. I tucked my sleeve back and said coldly, Fu Huijin. You've mistaken me for someone else. On the drive home, Fu Huijin was restless the entire way. He slurred his way through a torrent of words. My grip on the steering wheel tightened again and again before I finally managed to stop myself from kicking him out of the car. When we finally arrived at South Lake Villa, I handed Fu Huijin over to the staff and hurried back to my room to rest. I had an exceptionally restless night, apart from right after I was reborn, when I frequently dreamt of the car crash and the cliff fall. After that, I hadn't had that dream for a long time, but tonight, it came back to me again. In the dream, the sky was gloomy and overcast. The three of us, my family, were forced onto the mountain road by the debt collectors. The moment the car lost control and plunged over the cliff, I felt as if my insides were being torn apart. To protect me, my parents threw themselves in front of me without a second thought for their own lives. Using their own bodies to cushion my fall, I watched helplessly as they drew their last breaths right before my eyes. Overwhelmed with grief, I mustered the last of my strength to try and call for help, but my mind was foggy, and I had no idea who I was even calling. The phone rang for what felt like an eternity before it was finally answered, only for the cold voice of Fu Huijin to come through. Wen Ning, what are you up to now? Today is my wedding with Ying Ying. Don't you dare cause any trouble. Help me. My mouth was full of blood, my voice a faint whisper. He couldn't hear what I was saying, because deafening firecrackers went off on his end, accompanied by Su Ying's coquettish laughter. Huijin, who are you on the phone with? Hurry up, everyone is waiting for us to say our vows. Fu Huijin hung up the phone without a moment's hesitation. My hand gripping the phone grew cold, and my breathing gradually weakened. How bitterly ironic. The last sound I heard before dying was actually the celebratory cannons for Fu Huijin's wedding to Su Ying. I was filled with utter resentment. But Kumeng's story didn't end here. The scene shifts to the mountain road, where the debt collectors are peering over the cliff's edge. A fall from this height. He must be dead, right? I guess we've completed Miss Sue's task. Ack. I jolted upright in bed, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding wildly. What was that? Was it just a dream? Or did it really happen in a past life? Were the debt collectors sent by Miss Sue? Outside, the sky had already brightened, sunlight filtered through the gaps in the curtains, yet it couldn't dispel the chill that had settled deep in my heart. I pressed a hand to my racing heart, waiting a long while for it to calm before I finally made my way downstairs. Fu Huijin was already gone from the villa. The only trace left was a single breakfast set out on the dining table. Nanny Zhang approached. Madam, you're awake. This is the breakfast Mr. Fu personally made for you. Would you like some? If so, I can warm it up for you. I looked at the exquisite shrimp dumplings and millet congee, feeling rather surprised. This was the first time, in both of my lives, that I had ever known Fu Huijin could cook. but remembering the dream I had, I completely lost my appetite. No, thanks, just a warm glass of milk will do. After drinking the milk, I drove to work at Wynn's. Not long after I set off, the steering wheel suddenly failed. The car, like a runaway horse, veered towards the roadside guardrail. I instinctively slammed on the brakes, but they had failed too. Bang, with a deafening crash, the car slammed into the guardrail. The airbag deployed, smacking me hard in the face. Everything went black before my eyes, and the image of my car careening off the cliff in my previous life flashed through my mind. When I came to again, I was lying in a hospital bed with an oxygen tube in my nose, my whole body aching. I slowly opened my eyes to see my parents sitting anxiously by the bedside. Fu Huijin was there too, holding my hand tightly. Seeing I was awake, my mother immediately rushed over, her tears falling onto the back of my hand, scalding hot. Ning, you're finally awake. You scared me half to death. Even my usually stoic father couldn't hold back the tears welling in his eyes. Mom, Dad, I'm okay. Please don't worry. My voice was hoarse. I tried to lift my hand to wipe my mother's tears, but found my arm wouldn't move at all. Fu Huijin said with a guilty conscience from the side. Wen Ning, I'm sorry. It was Ying who had someone tamper with your car. I apologize on her behalf. Please don't blame her. She's still young and doesn't know any better. As he spoke, his face was full of reluctance and conflict. I wasn't the least bit surprised that Fu Huijin would defend Suing. But my parents were quite upset. What do you mean? Just a childish mistake. My daughter's life was nearly lost. Do you think a simple apology is enough to make this go away? Fu Huijin opened his mouth, at a loss for words, and finally forced out a stiff sentence. If you agree not to hold Ying accountable, I'm willing to concede 3 percentage points on our partnership deal. I could hardly keep from laughing. In my past life, I slapped Suing at the club. Not only was I forced to kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days, but the Wen family also had to concede 5 percentage points in profits as an apology. Now, I was nearly killed by Suing, and all I got was a measly 3-point concession. I should have long been used to Fu Huijin's blatant favoritism, yet my heart still twisted with an unexpected pang. My parents were absolutely furious. No business deal or profit is worth our daughter's life. They immediately kicked Fu Huijin out and called the police without a second thought. A wave of warmth washed over me, but not long after, the police called to say the case had been dropped. The reason given was that the family of the involved party requested a settlement, and there was no direct evidence linking it to Suing. Upon hearing the news, I couldn't help but let out a cold, scornful laugh. When it came time to seek a settlement, Fu Huijin suddenly remembered he was my lawful husband. My parents were furious, ready to call off the partnership and sever all ties with the Fu family on the spot. I stopped them from acting rashly and called Fu Huijin. Fu Huijin, if you want us to let Suing off the hook, fine, we'll get a divorce, but the partnership between our families must proceed as planned. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before Fu Huijin spoke, his voice slightly hoarse. Wen Ning, does it have to be this way? I gave a light laugh. Isn't this what you wanted? He fell silent again, and it was a long moment before he finally spoke once more. All right, I agree. Unlike my last life, where Fu Huijin forced me into divorce, this time, I'm the one taking control of my own destiny. The divorce proceedings went quickly. The moment I picked up the pen and signed my name, my marriage alliance with Fu Huijin was officially over. As we stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Fu Huijin called out to me, as if he wanted to say something, but before he could get a word out, Suing fluttered over to him like a brightly colored butterfly. I didn't care what Fu Huijin had left unsaid, and I couldn't be bothered to watch them flaunt their affection. I simply drove away. After the divorce, I poured all my energy into the Wen family business, drawing on the experience from my past life. I led the Wen group to secure several new energy projects. The investments I had my parents make in the new energy sector earlier have now become the main driving force behind the Wen group's growth. In less than 6 months, Wenshire's sales, both domestic and international, surpassed 100 million, making it the dark horse of the industry. 8. At the celebration banquet, Dad was in high spirits from the drinks. He patted me on the shoulder and said, Ning, I always thought of you as a little girl who needed protecting. Now I see you're more capable than your old man. I'm entrusting Wenshire to you from now on, and I have complete peace of mind. Seeing the gratified smile on my father's face filled my heart with warmth. It was a sense of accomplishment I had never experienced in my previous life. It wasn't because of Fu Huijin's small kindness, but because I had protected my family and held the company together through my own abilities. But I gradually noticed that many difficult collaborations would suddenly become smooth sailing. I asked Lu Qingqing to look into it for me, and she came back with the results quickly. I've got to the bottom of it. Fu Huijin is the one pulling all the strings behind the scenes. So, you're saying Fu Huijin has been secretly watching my back? Once again, I found myself unable to figure Fu Huijin out. In my past life, when the Wen family went bankrupt, I got down on my knees and begged Fu Huijin for help, but he refused. Now, he's quietly making amends. Lu Qingqing looked at me hesitantly. Ningning, what should we do? Should we cancel the collaboration? After all, a true leading lady doesn't need anyone's help. I shot her a puzzled look. Why is it that when a man builds his career with help from all sides, no one questions if he's the leading man? But a woman has to refuse all assistance just to prove she's the leading lady. I shook my head. I poured my heart into making this partnership a success. If we cancel it out of the blue, the staff will start questioning my judgment. As for Fu Huijin, I'll just return the favor and send him a little gift. Ever since that day I dreamt of the debt collectors mentioning Miss Su, and then my car was sabotaged by Su Ying. Leading to the crash, I had someone look into Su Ying. I didn't just have her investigated, I specifically had people look into those debt collectors from my past life. An investigation focused solely on Su Ying turned up nothing suspicious. However, by starting with those debt collectors, a lot of shady dealings connected to Su Ying were uncovered. Those debt collectors essentially served as Su Ying's, or rather, the Su family's, external operatives, handling their dirty work. For instance, the Su family embezzled assets from the Fu Corporation, cooked the books, and even colluded with Fu's competitors to leak their trade secrets. The Su family is like a leech, sucking the lifeblood out of the Fu Corporation. I haven't had the evidence of the Su family's crimes for very long, and I was still debating whether to give Fu Huijin a heads up. It seems the time has come. I sent all the evidence to Fu Huijin. This marked the first time we had communicated since our divorce. Fu Huijin did not reply, however, through mutual contacts in our circle. I soon learned that the Fu group was undergoing a major purge. Not long after, news broke that Su Ying had been taken away. On the day the Su family was lawfully arrested on multiple charges including embezzlement, commercial fraud, and leaking trade secrets, Fu Huijin came to find me, led into the office by his assistant. He couldn't hide the look of astonishment in his eyes when he saw me again. Since my rebirth, I've grown tremendously. No longer the simple and naive young lady of the Wen family I once was, I've become decisive and formidable in the business world. My entire demeanor has transformed, making me shine even brighter. Fu Huijin and I sat down facing each other. When he spoke, his voice was slightly hoarse. Ningning, thank you for the evidence, I replied in a flat tone. Don't mention it, I'm just returning the favor. To thank you for your previous covert assistance to the Wen family. Fu Huijin shook his head and insisted, I still have to thank you. You don't know this, but Su Ying's parents, in their plot to seize the Fu family's business, were responsible for my parents' deaths. They then pretended to be kind by taking me into their home. For years after that, they used the excuse that I was too young to control the Fu group. 9. All these years, I've had no choice but to play along with them. I've tried many times in secret to gather evidence of their corporate crimes. But they've always managed to slip away, cunning as they are. They even wanted Su Ying to marry me, to legitimize their control over the Fu group. Fortunately, I made my move first and created a situation where the Fu group had no choice but to seek a marriage alliance and partnership with the Wen family. My relationship with Su Ying is just for show. I don't love her at all, and she was never my one that got away. The person I've truly always loved is you. His gaze towards me was sincere and intense, but my reaction was lukewarm. I just glanced up casually and murmured, I know. I had known since the day I went to pick up a drunk Fu Huijin and brought him home. At first, when Fu Huijin's best friend Chen Mo said I was his white moonlight, I didn't believe it, but when Fu Huijin sat in the car and started rambling on about the first time he saw me, I was convinced. The first time Fu Huijin saw me was in a cemetery. His parents had just passed away. He had been taken in by Su Ying's parents, and at the Su household, he endured endless bullying. Completely isolated and helpless, he had no one to confide in but his parents in their graves, pouring out all his grievances to them. At that moment, I happened to be passing by while visiting a grave. Seeing him with tears streaming down his face, I went over and gave him a comforting hug. Don't cry, big brother. Here, I'll give you a piece of candy. That piece of candy became the reason Fu Huijin gritted his teeth and persevered. It also became the courage that drove him, as an adult, to defy his parents, the Su family, and insist on marrying me through an arranged union. After hearing Fu Huijin's explanation that day, my first thought was, what a cliché reason for an arranged marriage. It was only later that the penny dropped. And I realized why Suing and the media had arrived so promptly after Fu Huijin drank the tainted substance, because from the moment the drug was administered, it was all Su Ying's doing. She had sensed Fu Huijin's feelings for me and, fearing the Fu family would slip from her control, was desperate to tie him down, but she failed. Fu Huijin would rather take a cold shower than share a room with her. That's precisely why she tampered with my car, driven by her resentment. Fu Huijin could have kept it from me that Suing was behind it, but there in the hospital room, he not only told me, he also staunchly defended her. That was the moment I realized Fu Huijin wanted to protect me by getting a divorce, so, as he wished, I brought up divorce. So you see, I really do know everything. After I finished speaking, Fu Huijin couldn't help but pause, taken aback. Since you know everything, then you must also understand my difficulties. Now that Suing and her family have been caught, Ningning, should we give it another try? The kind of normal marital relationship you've always wanted, I can give it to you this time. Yet, I simply shook my head. Understanding Fu Huijin's predicament is one thing, but the neglect I suffered across these 2 lifetimes was real. The brutal death of my entire family in my past life was also real. The damage is done, and I can't just pretend it never happened, in this life. I've finally learned to rely on myself and to love both myself and my parents. I no longer need Fu Huijin, nor do I crave his love anymore. Seeing the resolute look on my face, the color seemed to drain from Fu Huijin's complexion, leaving it deathly pale. I understand, Ningning, I've wronged you too much. It's only natural you can't forgive me. He was soon led away by his assistant again. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching Fu Huijin's car disappear into the distance. My heart utterly calm. Perhaps this is for the best, for the both of us. He no longer needs to have any reservations, nor will I ever again long for his love. Time flew by. Over the next year, I continued to lead When Corporation's expansion, swiftly establishing it as an unshakable force in the new energy sector. On the day I was voted in as When Group's CEO, I visited a famously efficacious temple in the city to give thanks for the second chance I'd been given. As I stepped out of the main hall, a light rain began to fall. I took shelter under the eaves, and a monk in gray robes, passing by, suddenly stopped and said, "This humble one senses a great destiny upon you, benefactor." I was taken aback for a moment, then quickly reached out to stop him, eager to hear more. That's when I realized my rebirth wasn't a miracle from the heavens, but someone had traded their own lifespan for my second chance. But my parents died right before my eyes. And Lu Qingqing wouldn't have sacrificed her life for me either, so who could it have been? Puzzled, I turned around without thinking and saw Fu Huijin ascending the steps through the curtain of misty rain. The monk smiled faintly and went to the main hall, yielding his place to Fu Huijin. I stared at Fu Huijin, somewhat bewildered. After some time apart, his entire demeanor had grown more composed and reserved, yet his eyes as they met mine were filled with nostalgia and relief. A sudden thought struck me, and I spoke before Fu Huijin could utter a word. "Fu Huijin, you've remembered your past life, haven't you? It was you from that life who traded your own lifespan for my rebirth, wasn't it?" Fu Huijin nodded. "Yes, in my past life. When I learned of your death, I was utterly devastated. I hated myself for not dealing with the Su family sooner, which gave Suing the opportunity to act. Back then, he finally obtained the evidence of the Su family's crimes and went after them with a vengeance, determined to destroy them completely. When the media learned he was raised by the Su family, they accused him of being ungrateful. Everyone in their circle was also calling him an ungrateful wretch, but he didn't care. The mere thought of Wen Ning's death was enough to shatter him with pain. He selected an excellent burial plot for Wen Ning's family and would often visit to talk to Wen Ning. Yet the grief in his heart only grew deeper with each passing day, so he began to pray to gods and Buddhas, hoping Wen Ning could be reborn. He was willing to pay any price. A monk in gray robes asked him, "Aren't you afraid that after being reborn, she might not choose to love you anymore?" He shook his head. "It doesn't matter. As long as I love her, that's enough." I felt like crying, yet a wave of relief washed over me. Thank goodness I didn't squander this second chance at life, bought with Fu Huijin's own lifespan in our past life, and avoided the tragedy of losing my family all over again. And thankfully, everything is moving in a positive direction from here on out. As the rain gradually let up, Fu Huijin and I shared a smile and walked down the steps side by side. Completed. Story 2. After my sister and I came of age, our parents let us decide who would take over the company and who would marry the Buddhist scion of the capital's elite circle. my sister. Eager for romance, chose the Buddhist scion without hesitation, but after marriage, she was left alone every day and eventually succumbed to loneliness, having an affair with the butler. When the scandal broke, the scion divorced her and sent her back home. Meanwhile, I ran the company and became a renowned female entrepreneur. On the day the branch company was established, my sister pushed me off the high rise. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I had to make that choice. My sister was one step ahead. I want to inherit the company. I want to be a strong businesswoman. I smiled, let her slowly fill the company's multi-billion-dollar financial hole herself, and I'm about to live the good life with a rich husband who never comes home. 1. Mom and Dad. I want to inherit the company. I'm going to be a career woman. My sister blurted out eagerly, I've been learning from you since childhood, and I studied finance. I'm definitely qualified to take over the company. Rather than marrying into wealth, I'll become the wealthy family myself. A domineering statement, resounding and powerful. Both parents were shocked, and I froze for a moment before quickly regaining my composure. My sister has also been reborn. Mom frowned and immediately started persuading, Yank. Although Pei-Siu may seem a bit cold in temperament, he's been devout since childhood with a pure and kind heart, very easy to get along with. His family background is simple too, with easygoing in-laws. You won't have to worry about mother-in-law conflicts or infidelity dramas. Just marry into the family, and your days ahead will be smooth sailing. She then tactfully added, the company hasn't been doing well lately. Choosing to marry Pei-Siu is for the best. Your mother wouldn't steer you wrong. The message couldn't be clearer. Any sensible person would understand, but my sister failed to grasp the deeper meaning behind it, because she had long been trapped in a vortex of jealousy toward me. In our past life, she chose to marry Pei-Siu but later became the laughingstock of their social circle after having an affair with the butler. Meanwhile, I successfully managed the company, transforming it from a small business into a major corporation that went public and expanded overseas with branch offices. I was frequently featured in media magazines and hailed as an outstanding entrepreneur, enjoying a period of immense prestige. Given this chance to make a different choice, how could she possibly change her mind so easily just because of a few words from her mother? Mom, no matter what you say, it's useless. I've already made up my mind to take over the company. So what if the company's performance is temporarily poor? I'm the daughter you raised with your own hands. I'll definitely steer the company back on track and lead it to glory in no time. As she spoke, her hands clenched into fists, her eyes brimming with excitement and fervor. She seems to already be fantasizing about the glamorous life of becoming a female entrepreneur. I pressed my lips together, but a smile still spilled from the corners of my mouth. The company isn't just performing poorly, it's saddled with over $4 billion in debt, banks have stopped lending, and employee salaries can't even be paid. It's just one step away from bankruptcy. In my past life, I drank until I had a stomach hemorrhage just to secure investments from bosses, who only lent me money out of pity so I could pay my employees' salaries. In this life, even if my sister chooses to marry Pei-Siu, I won't inherit the company anymore. Starting over from scratch is much easier. Mom sighed helplessly. Fine, since you've made up your mind, go ahead and inherit the company. My elder sister looked at me with a smug expression. Little sister is embarrassed now. But who told you I'm the elder sister and get to choose first? The corners of my lips curled up in a meaningful smile. As long as elder sister doesn't regret it later. She lifted her chin, her eyes filled with arrogance. I'll never regret it. You're the one who'll be stuck in a loveless marriage with that cold-blooded Pei-Siu, waiting to live as a grass widow for the rest of your life. You may seem to have it all, but in reality, you've got nothing but cold, hard cash. But I'm different. My journey is toward the stars and the sea. I bared my pearly whites, grinning with radiant brilliance. My husband has money, power, and status. He gives me face in public and money in private. The best part is he's never home. What's wrong with guarding this little widowhood? That's all I deserve. 2. The first thing my sister did after taking over our parents' company was to show off in a social media post. Rather than marrying into wealth, become the wealthy family yourself. The accompanying images show several stock transfer documents and a meeting with shareholders. In the photo, she's beaming with joy, radiant and dazzling, clearly in high spirits. I barely had time to hit like before my sister called to gloat. Little sister, now I'm the boss of the Lin Group, with a net worth of several billion. Everyone calls me young Master Lin. In the past, at every banquet, I could only chat with those ladies about designer handbags, clothes, and shoes. So boring. Now I sit at the head table discussing multi-million-dollar deals. It's no use being envious. You're destined to be nothing more than a man's caged canary in this life. How pitiful. I scoffed meaningfully. Congratulations, sister, on achieving your wish. Be happy, enjoy it while you can, because in a few days, you won't be able to. My parents began preparing for the marriage between me and Pei Siyue. Just like in my past life, I waited half a month for him to return from abroad, dressed in a black linen tang suit, standing at 1.9 meters tall, with sharp facial features and deep-set eyes. A faint scent of sandalwood still lingered around him. I swallowed hard. Although I'd seen him a few times in my past life, the distance had been too great. I never realized he was this handsome up close. Sis really ate well in her past life. Pei Siyue looked at me with an indifferent expression. Miss Lin Wanwan, the wedding arrangements will be entirely according to your preferences, with no budget limit. Instantly I found him even more handsome, radiating golden light all over. How could my sister bear to let go of such a wonderful man? I pursed my lips, suppressing the flutter in my heart. Personally, I don't think we need an extravagant wedding. Just a simple meal with close friends and family would suffice. A strange glint flashed through Pei Siyue's eyes, hesitantly said, do you really think so? I smiled and nodded. Yes, I know you're wealthy, and I know you're generous, but several of my married friends told me that weddings are truly exhausting, having to wake up at 3 a.m. for makeup and dieting just to fit into a beautiful wedding dress. Rather than being extravagant, it's better to use that money for charity. This final remark wasn't made to flatter or please him either. Rather, I genuinely enjoy philanthropy myself. In my previous life, I earned substantial wealth and donated considerable sums, being honored as a philanthropist year after year, mainly because when money reaches a certain amount, it just becomes a number, rather than hoarding it. It's better to help those in need. Pei Siyue's gaze when looking at me has softened considerably. Alright, I'll take care of this matter. 3. Pei Siyue arranged the dinner at a manor halfway up the mountainside. Although I said a simple meal would suffice, he still invited all my relatives and friends. The dishes were prepared by a specially invited Michelin 5-star chef, an open-air banquet with air-shipped white roses. Tender and romantic, many friends came to congratulate me. Wanwan, you're so lucky to marry Pei Siyue. He's the dream man of so many sisters. The Pei family's ancestral home has a history of over 100 years. Being able to hold your wedding here really shows how much Pei Siyue likes you. Quick, tell us how it feels to marry such a handsome, wealthy, and gentle young master. I was just about to answer when my sister's sarcastic voice chimed in from the side. What's there to envy or praise? They didn't even have a proper wedding. It's obvious he doesn't think much of her. What's the use of Pei Siyue being rich and handsome? He's either busy with work or worshipping Buddha all day. Marrying him would be no different from being a grass widow. Women should rely on themselves. But as for you, little sister, this is all you'll ever amount to. I let out a mocking laugh and said deliberately, to those who know, it's just elder sister caring for her younger sister. To those who don't, they'd think you're just jealous and bitter. Everyone burst into laughter immediately. My sister flushed red and said, I'm not jealous at all. My journey is towards the stars and the sea. What's so great about some random man? Her words sounded righteous and high-sounding. I might have believed her, if not for the fact that in her past life she cheated with the butler and even had multiple abortions for him, as her younger sister. I naturally said with a smile, sister is indeed progressive. Unlike us ordinary women, sister said proudly and triumphantly, of course, I would never rely on men. I will definitely manage the company well and prove to everyone that women are no less capable than men. These resounding words attracted many people to turn their heads frequently. My sister slightly lifted her chin, basking in the limelight. I elegantly sipped champagne, quietly enjoying my sister's show-off. The term killing with praise was tailor-made for her, serving as interest repaid for her pushing me off a high-rise in my past life. For others, their wedding night is a moment worth 1,000 pieces of gold. Pei Siyue, the abstinent CEO, stayed in the study until 2 a.m. Thoughtfully, I brought him a bowl of white fungus and lotus seed soup. He said indifferently, you go rest first. I'll sleep in the study after finishing my work so I won't disturb you. Then he took out a black card and handed it to me. No spending limit, buy whatever you want. He's trying to buy me off with money. It'd be a lie to say I'm not tempted, but I'm greedy. I want to learn from him. In my past life, I was a successful entrepreneur, but compared to someone like him at the pinnacle of the pyramid, I still fell far short. I experienced the life of a wealthy socialite for over a month, plenty of money and leisure time, but it's genuinely so dull. I still relish thriving in the business world, No amount of money given by others feels as empowering as what I earn with my own hands. I playfully winked. Working late nights is very harmful to your health, so have something to eat before continuing the battle. Pei-Siu's pen paused slightly while signing documents. Raising his eyes to look at me, I let out a soft laugh and pushed the card back again. I know you married me because of your parents' wishes. You can give me money and status. But you can't give me love. What a coincidence. I married you for the same reason. My parents were pressuring me. We can have a prenuptial agreement. If either of us meets true love or grows tired, we can divorce anytime. But I only have one request. Let me be your personal assistant for 3 months, learning from you. To outsiders, we can say it's our honeymoon phase. Don't worry, I know the rules. Outside of work, I'll stay 3 meters away from you, with someone of your caliber. Being direct about intentions is far better than being coy or pretentious. I gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, so after just a moment's thought, he nodded in agreement. Okay, working under boss pay means starving 9 times in 3 days, because he's genuinely too busy. Endless meetings, never-ending product development, and constant factory visits, plus flying around the globe to negotiate deals. Not only does he eat very little, but it's all vegetarian food. As someone who can't live without meat, I've lost my baby fat and developed a sharp jawline. Finally, he came to his senses and hired me a personal assistant, even assigning me a private chef. I declined awkwardly. I'm already your personal secretary. Such grand arrangements aren't appropriate. He lifted his long eyelashes and said leisurely, only when you're well-fed can you work better. Field employees all receive meal allowances. It's not special treatment. No wonder he's been able to remain steadfast at the top of the pyramid. He truly treats employees as human beings. 5. Although Pei-Siu loves his work, he still takes 1 day off on weekends. Just as I was about to sleep all day to recover my energy, I received a call from my mom asking me to come home for dinner in the evening. I wanted to refuse, but after some quick calculations, I realized my sister must already know about the company's dire financial situation. Sleep is nowhere near as important as watching the drama unfold. Just as expected, the moment I got home I heard my sister questioning our parents in an unfriendly tone. Mom and Dad, what exactly have you been doing all these years? A perfectly good company has been losing money for 3 consecutive years, with debts exceeding 4 billion, we can't even pay employee salaries, and banks have stopped lending. How do you expect me to handle such a massive mess? Mom looked apologetic. Yank. Don't worry, we'll definitely help you get the situation under control. Your father and I are already borrowing money. How biased can you be? In my past life, they never helped me pay off debts, just said they were old and stressed, telling me to figure it out myself. But when it's my sister's turn, they'll handle everything. Not that it matters though, since my sister's a good for nothing anyway. The elder sister let out an irritated hum. You'd better borrow the money soon. Finance has been pressing me several times about making the salary payments. I've completely lost face. Seeing me made her even more furious. Little sister, did you know all along that the company was in debt? Did you deliberately make me inherit this worthless company? I pretended to be obedient and innocent. Sis, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand you? My sister stared intently into my eyes, and after finding no flaws, angrily threw a pillow. This is so annoying. No one in this family gives me peace of mind. Tell Pei-Siu to invest in my company. 50 billion for now will do. If it's not enough, I'll let you know later. This is urgent. The money needs to be transferred within 3 days. Go back and get the money now. The matter-of-fact tone directly made me laugh. I started spouting nonsense right away. Sis. From the wedding till now, I've only seen Pei-Siu once. Forget about asking for money. I can't even meet him. On our wedding night, he worked in his study until dawn. I got angry and had a fight with him, and he never came home again. The bank card he previously gave me was also frozen directly. Rumors say he's very generous, but that's pure alarmism. Hearing me complain like this, my sister's expression immediately brightened considerably. She began to sneer. I thought you were so capable, but look at the state you're in now, and you still expect to get money from Pei-Siu. What a pipe dream. Forget it. Mom, you and Dad should go borrow the money instead. Borrow as much as you can. That mess can't be cleaned up without at least 5 billion. Of course, she didn't forget to shoot me a glance, saying with an arrogant expression, even though my company is in debt now, it won't be long before I turn things around and become truly wealthy. The smile on my face was harder to suppress than an AK. I believe in you, sis. Since we were kids, there's nothing you set your mind to that you haven't accomplished. My praise made her smug tail waggle with pride again. What an easily fooled idiot. 6. With our parents' full support, My sister's company managed to barely stabilize. She reverted to her usual haughty demeanor with nostrils flared upward. She constantly portrays herself as an independent, strong female lead in her social media posts. The 3-month agreement between me and PayCua has expired. Despite being a personal assistant, I still managed to secure several major deals with substantial bonuses, money in hand, and knowledge acquired too. It's time to graduate. Just hand in the resignation letter. Manager Pay, thank you for your guidance during this time. It will benefit me for life. Though the words may sound exaggerated, they're genuinely true. He teaches without holding anything back, from negotiation skills to strategic planning, networking resources, and even the company's future development and market prospects. Everything was handed over to me completely. Pacey looked at me leisurely. So what are your plans next? I blurted out. Starting a business. Compared to new energy high tech, I'm more optimistic about e-commerce. Low investment, high profit. I plan to collaborate with students from the Academy of Fine Arts to create a high-end brand featuring Chinese cultural elements, aiming to go global. PayCua nodded in approval of my idea. Building national confidence is essential. What's your startup funding amount? I declared confidently. Over the years, I've saved up around $3 million from scholarships, New Year's money, and project dividends. I estimate $2 million for initial venue, labor, and materials, leaving $1 million for promotion. The later stage funds will circulate smoothly. It shouldn't be a problem. He directly handed me a check, the amount clearly showing $50 million. Since you're aiming for the luxury route, choose the best office building. The vibe must be elevated, and the positioning absolutely clear and distinct. Consider this money as my purchase of priority cooperation rights after your brand's successful IPO. You have a unique and spiritual aesthetic sense. I believe you will definitely succeed. Hearing these words, my heart stirred slightly. My $3 million startup fund isn't too small. At most it would take 3 years to get established, but with the extended timeline, the risks also increase. With his $50 million, I could save at least 2 years of initial groundwork. As a businessman, I naturally wouldn't refuse. CEO Pay, aren't you afraid I won't repay this money, or that the startup might fail? PayCua's lips curled upward. If that really happens, I'd have one less competitor. That'd be a good thing. With this setup, no wonder he's consistently ranked in the top 10 domestically. 7. Compared to my entrepreneurial learning journey, which is thriving, my sister hasn't been doing well lately. Although our parents helped her borrow money and introduced her to projects, connections, and resources, but my sister is too aloof, putting on too much of an act. She's clearly the one asking for favors. Yet she behaves as if others are begging her. She reluctantly attends project social events with a bad attitude, if she goes at all. Once a small business owner brought his mistress and offered her a toast, but she directly cursed him out and even threw a glass of wine at him. Who do you think you are? I'll drink your wine if I feel like it. You're fooling around outside while having a wife and kids at home. Aren't you afraid of catching something? And you became his mistress just for money. Do your parents know? What man would dare marry you in the future? Truly a scumbag matched with a cheap woman. Utterly disgusting. This shocking move left everyone present dumbfounded. The small business owner stormed out in anger. The agreed-upon deal fell through, and many other bosses began avoiding her. The business district is full of profit-driven bosses. What are saints and moral hypocrites doing here? They should just go to Buddha temples. Although this matter was barely resolved with her parents' help, it indirectly caused significant impact on both her and the company. Unable to make money outside while burdened with heavy debts, my sister was in a terrible mood. Mom called me home to talk some sense into her. I naturally wouldn't refuse such an entertaining spectacle. The moment I entered the house, I heard my sister angrily throwing a pillow. Those people are just idiots, completely lacking professional integrity. They stopped everything right after signing the contract. So what if I was a bit blunt with my words? They didn't even consider I'm just a woman, not showing me any courtesy at all. Besides, I wasn't wrong. A man who openly cheats and flaunts his mistress has no morals or decency. Splashing wine on him was being lenient. I should have slapped him twice to teach him women aren't to be trifled with. Anyone who didn't know the truth would think my sister here is some paragon of virtue and integrity. In my past life, I cheated with the butler, had 3 abortions for him, and gave away half my wealth to him. After PayCua finally sent me home, I still went looking for that butler several times, hoping to rekindle the affair. Too bad he'd already vanished abroad without a trace. This is truly peak delusional love obsession. Worse than being a mistress for money. At least those people have clear motives. They're after money. but this sister wants nothing, even degrades herself while paying the price. 8. What are you back for? Just came to watch my misery. My sister glared at me with venom in her eyes. Let me tell you, no matter how bad my life gets, it's still 100 times better than yours. I let out a light chuckle and nodded in agreement. You're absolutely right, sister. You've always been more outstanding and capable than me since childhood. What's this little setback to you? They're just taking advantage of the company's downturn to deliberately target and look down on you. Sister, it's truly outrageous. They say big deals are made at the dinner table, and having a few drinks is normal, though disgusting. Successful people don't sweat the small stuff. Once they make money, they'll come fawning over you like lapdogs. When that day comes, you can slap them right back and show them the consequences of crossing you. Sister's expression instantly brightened considerably. She was well aware of all the accusations and humiliations these past days, but just wanted a way out without losing face, murmured along with my words, since my sister has said so, I can't be bothered to stoop to their level. They just look down on me because I'm a woman and don't want to do business with me. Well, I'll do it anyway, and do it better than them. It's just drinking with them, right? I'll make sure they're all under the table. Seeing how I managed to cheer up my sister with just a few words, Mom was overjoyed, and I couldn't help but smile. For our family, the most important thing is to stay complete and united. In my past life, I truly drank myself under the table during business negotiations, but I specifically hired a veteran with exceptional alcohol tolerance as my assistant. Not only could they ward off drinks for me, but they also ensured I got home safely. It's just a pity that my sister doesn't have that kind of brains. My sister started lowering herself to accompany drinking. At first, our parents stayed by her side, helping to fend off drinks and handle some socializing, but later when they saw she was managing fine, they felt at ease to focus on other projects. My sister never had very strong boundaries to begin with, so it became common for her to be taken advantage of after being plied with alcohol. Seeing the increasing orders and wealth, she naturally didn't mind anymore. Gradually, the company began to revive, but her reputation deteriorated within the circle, while my sister remained oblivious, continuing to maintain her aloof and independent persona on social media. She would occasionally call to boast to me as well, "Little sister, I just secured a major order worth 50 million, the biggest deal our company has seen in nearly a decade." Mom and Dad both praised me as a genius. It's just business negotiations and partnerships. Nowadays, whenever I step in, there's no deal I can't close. Unlike you, who spends every day like a lonely widow waiting for Paisiua to return, I'm so busy I barely touch the ground. After all, thousands of employees depend on me to make a living. I glanced at the financial report. My company, which I started less than 2 months ago, has already surpassed 50 million in revenue this month. The profit margin for clothing is very high, with a remaining 50% profit after deducting all costs and expenses, whereas my parents' company has a net profit of at most 25%. I let out a scoff and said mockingly, "Sis, you're simply amazing. You'll soon become an outstanding entrepreneur and a benchmark in the industry." Flattered by my praise, my sister became even more smug. "Of course, in at most 3 years, I'll definitely become the industry leader." I curled my lips in a cold smile. "Then I'll congratulate you in advance for achieving your wish." Projects obtained through personal connections are the absolute worst of the worst. Not only are the people unreliable, but the projects themselves might not be clean enough to withstand scrutiny. My sister may have been reborn, but she clearly didn't bring her brains back with her. 9. Although I've already achieved entrepreneurial success, I still return to Paisiua's home to rest every night. Not just because we're still officially married, more importantly, Paisiua provides me with significant guidance and assistance in my work. His terrifying network of connections made my self-created brand go viral domestically and internationally in less than 3 months. Of course, there were also other ulterior motives mixed in, like Zhou Ting, the butler my sister had an affair with in her past life. These days he's been exceptionally attentive to me, whenever Paisiua isn't home. He brings me ginseng soup and fruits every night, and cuts flowers along my daily path every morning, with dew soaking his white shirt to reveal his muscular physique. Moreover, he's quite handsome, has study abroad experience, and possesses extraordinary eloquence. No wonder my sister was so infatuated with him before. He does have some qualities. Originally, I wanted Paisiua to fire him directly. There's no need to keep someone with such ill intentions around. But considering that scum like him would inevitably harm other women if left to roam free, I kept him around. Now he happens to be of use. I handed him a document and said with a smile, "This file is urgent. deliver it to VIP room 888 at Nightfall Bar for Mr. Chung. Normally, such errands would be handled by drivers or assistants, not someone of his high status as the chief steward, but he naturally wouldn't refuse the opportunity to show off in front of me, madam. I'd be delighted to be of service to you. So greasy. My sister in her past life must have been truly desperate, grabbing at any chance she got. Mr. Chung is the worst reputed boss I've ever worked with, greedy and lecherous. I chose to collaborate with him because he's my sister's biggest supplier. Today's his birthday celebration at the bar, and of course my sister will attend. In our past life, my sister never forgot Zhou Ting, as her younger sister. It's only natural I should help fulfill her wishes. Sure enough, Zhou Ting didn't return until daybreak. Her white blouse was terribly wrinkled, with dense hickeys covering her neck. Seems like last night's battle was quite intense. 10. Zhou Ting didn't disappoint me. Within less than a week, he was decked out head to toe in luxury brands, driving a Bentley sports car, and voluntarily resigned, said he was starting a bar business, with the location already picked in the busiest downtown area. Also mentioned inviting us to show support when the time comes. I smiled meaningfully and said, sure, we'll definitely be there. Watching his retreating figure, I couldn't help but click my tongue in disapproval. I still underestimated the extent of my sister's love-struck mentality. Opening a bar downtown would require at least $20 million as baseline funding. Although our parents' company was profitable, the previous external debts were too substantial to withstand her extravagant spending. As expected, our parents' company soon faced another financial crisis. Afraid to let their parents know the reason, the sister had no choice but to frantically take on projects outside, with Zhou Ting naturally following along. Originally, he was just a refined egoist, extremely vain and materialistic. Watching them casually handle projects worth millions or even tens of millions made him incredibly envious. Before, although the sister had also traded on her looks to some extent, she still had some boundaries, but Zhou Ting had no bottom line, actively helping them pour drinks to get her sister drunk, letting them take advantage, and then finding various excuses to demand money after securing the project, so her sister had to keep drinking and discussing projects with them. This created a vicious cycle, but the circle was small, and their parents naturally heard some rumors, starting to persuade the sister to break up, but my love-struck sister was convinced that Zhou Ting was her true love and soulmate, refusing to break up no matter what. So my mom called me and asked me to go back home to talk some sense into my sister. After signing the 300 million yuan project, I headed straight home to enjoy the drama. The moment I stepped through the door, I heard my sister declare resolutely, "Mom, Dad, Zhou Ting and I are truly in love. There's absolutely no way we're breaking up. He might not have much money now, but he's really got potential, especially good at business, studied abroad, and all his ex-girlfriends were from wealthy elite families. My job has been so high pressure lately, I almost had a breakdown and fell into depression. It was only through his support and care that I got through it." Mom turned pale with anger. "Your father and I have investigated thoroughly. He's complete scum. He got a girl pregnant back in high school, couldn't get into any domestic schools, and that's why they sent him abroad to some diploma mill. He doesn't love you at all. He's just after your money." My sister didn't believe a word of it, rolling her eyes dismissively. "I've been with him for so long. Don't you think I'd know what kind of person he is?" After saying this, she shot me another icy glare. "Little sister, you're here to convince me to break up with him too, right? Let me tell you. Don't waste your breath. There's no way I'm breaking up with him." I let out a soft chuckle and spoke deliberately. "How could that be? Zhou Ting is indeed a wonderful man, gentle, chivalrous, and considerate. If I weren't married to Pei Siyue, I'd be smitten too." Hearing my words, my sister immediately became smug. "You've got good taste," but suddenly thinking of something, she glared at me with a fierce expression. "Zhou Ting is my boyfriend. Stay away from him from now on. If I catch you trying to seduce him, I'll kill you. That piece of trash isn't even worth looking at. It'd just dirty my eyes." I curled my lips in a cold smile. "Sister, don't worry. I absolutely won't." 11. Seeing this scene, Mom anxiously exclaimed, "Wan, Zhou Ting is not a good person at all. It hasn't been long since he met your sister, yet he's already taken over 50 million. The company's funds can't even cover operations now." Sister snorted disdainfully and declared confidently, "It's normal for businesses to have ups and downs. There's no need for you to make such a fuss. When I first took over the company, the losses were severe with barely any project orders. Now the factories are overwhelmed with orders every day, all thanks to me. It's just money. I've got several major international clients in hand right now. Once we secure them, we'll make at least 4 or 500 million, Mom and Dad. Your thinking is outdated and no longer fits today's society. Just watch how I'll lead the company to glory step by step and make it the industry leader." The words were spoken with absolute conviction, the eyes burned with fanaticism. Before, my sister was overly confident, but at least she still had a grasp on reality. Our parents' company is just a small-scale operation. To secure an overseas market with 400 to 500 million in net profit would require orders worth at least 1.5 billion, even if my sister truly had the capability to land such massive orders. Our parents' factory couldn't possibly handle the production. The words were spoken with great confidence, but then the tone shifted, and they started asking me for money again. "Little sister, go borrow 50 million from PayCUA to invest in the company. I'll give you 20% of the annual dividends from now on. You'll earn money even while lying down. PayCUA is in the country right now. Go beg him. If he refuses, just cry, make a scene, or threaten to hang yourself, as your elder sister. I wouldn't harm you, don't worry. By the end of the month, at the company's annual meeting, I'll give you a dividend of 10 million. This pie-in-the-sky promise is no less deceptive than pyramid schemes." I feigned helplessness and sighed. "Sister, I don't have your capabilities. Casually handling deals worth thousands or billions, and even finding true love in life. PayCUA hasn't come home for over half a year. I can't even see him, and when I go to his company." The security guard stopped me at the door. "Sister, how are you so amazing, thriving in both career and love? It's truly enviable." Hearing my words, though displeased, my sister didn't get angry. She sneered contemptuously. "Little sister, not to be harsh, but you're truly useless. If you miss this opportunity, begging on your knees later won't help." I pressed my lips together, struggling to suppress the smile at the corners of my mouth. The person who lent money to my parents initially has been pressing for repayment, and the bank is also demanding payment. The year-end party at the end of the month is going to be quite lively. 12. After returning home, I started hiring a private investigator to look into my sister. Let's see where she gets the confidence to secure hundreds of millions in orders from overseas clients. The outcome was both expected and unexpected. Zhou Ting brought her sister to the extravagant yacht party, where most attendees were foreigners engaging in wild orgies, thrilling yet repulsive. The private investigator encountered a rival while surveilling my sister. They'd captured the same compromising photos and offered me exclusive rights, warning they'd release them during my sister's company annual gala if I refused. I nearly laughed aloud. Why would I pay to suppress such advantageous material? Even if the other party doesn't do this, I will. So I did a little investigation and found out that she was the mistress of the boss who had wine thrown on him and was humiliated by my sister at the banquet. She had been holding a grudge against my sister, but knowing I was PayCUA's wife, she was worried I'd retaliate, so she wanted to test my attitude, but after learning I wouldn't interfere, she felt at ease to take revenge. My sister's extravagant banquet not only secured several overseas clients but also many major domestic clients. How could she miss such a great opportunity to show off? She directly sent me an invitation. I was originally thinking of using PayCUA's invitation to attend, but this saved me a lot of trouble. On the day of the banquet, my sister directly booked the largest hotel in the city center. She spent a fortune. Setting the tone to the max, the elder sister wore a custom-made red strapless floor-length gown, adorned with a diamond-encrusted necklace that sparkled brilliantly. Upon seeing me, she proudly boasted, "Little sister, I once told you that I would lead our company to become the industry benchmark. Look at what I've achieved now. Only those with assets exceeding hundreds of millions qualify to attend our company's annual gala. Every attendee is a top-tier industry leader. If you weren't my sister, you wouldn't even be qualified to step in here. Now that you regret it and want to invest in my company, it's too late. You'll just have to rely on men for the rest of your life." How pathetic. I curled my lips into a faint smile and spoke deliberately. "Sis, I forgot to mention, I've started my own business recently, and it's been somewhat successful." My sister scoffed and shot me a disdainful glance. "You, with no money or connections. What are you using to start a business? These days even setting up a street stall counts as entrepreneurship. Where's your stall? I'll drop by sometime to patronize your business." At that moment, the fifth-ranked tycoon in the fabric raw materials industry came walking towards them. His fleshy face crinkled into a chrysanthemum-like smile as he spoke with fawning excitement. "President Lin, I never expected to see you here. I visited your company several times before but never had the chance to meet you." The elder sister raised her chin and spoke proudly. "President Zhou, I've been too busy recently." Before she could finish speaking, President Zhou hastily waved his hand to interrupt. President Lin, I wasn't referring to you. I meant this lady before us. President Lin Wanwan, the mastermind behind China's largest traditional style brand. She's truly a legend, making traditional Chinese fashion trends go globally viral in less than a year, becoming the industry's greatest success story. 13. The elder sister was instantly dumbfounded, her face full of disbelief as she spoke. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could you possibly be so capable? Suddenly realizing something, she sneered with certainty. I get it now. You must have climbed the ranks by relying on a man. Who's the sugar daddy behind you? Or are you so desperate for contracts and projects that you'd take any man? I let out a derisive laugh, both mocking and amused. Sis, you sound so confident when you say that. Don't tell me this is how you built your business. Big sister instantly got defensive. What nonsense are you spouting? All my business dealings are completely legitimate. None of that pimping nonsense. Just then, a mocking female voice chimed in from the side. Director Kobayashi, how dare you say such things? Have you forgotten how you slept with my sponsor to secure that contract? You were utterly shameless in bed, with your pimp boyfriend Zhou Ting watching on the side. What a thrilling trio you made. 9 out of 10 male bosses at your banquet have slept with you. You call me filthy. Then what does that make you? A colleague. At least I'm better. I'm only one man's mistress, while you're dozens. The crowd erupted in mocking laughter. Her sister's face turned crimson as she pointed at her and screamed angrily, what evidence do you have? This is slander. I'll sue you until you're bankrupt. Security, get her out of here immediately. The woman sneered and snapped her fingers. The festive electronic screen instantly changed to display a group of naked men and women in a chaotic brawl, with her sister's face clearly showing an expression of pleasure. Terrified, her sister let out a piercing scream and began shouting hysterically. Turn it off now. It's all fake, fake. Several big shots present appeared on the screen, their faces deathly pale as they rushed on stage to smash the display. The scene descended into complete chaos. My sister became the laughingstock of the industry, with all her business partners withdrawing investments and cutting ties. The once thriving company suffered an overnight collapse and directly declared bankruptcy. Banks, suppliers, and creditors all came knocking for their money. My sister had spent all her money on Zhou Ting, and now she had none left, so she demanded that Zhou Ting sell all his luxury cars and mansions to repay her debts. Zhou Ting pretended to agree readily, but in reality, he absconded with the funds to buy tickets abroad, and before leaving, he even took out massive high-interest loans in his sister's name. The result was that he was intercepted by his sister the moment he arrived at the airport. My private investigator is very capable. The sister demanded money from Zhou Ting, but ended up being pinned to the ground and beaten by Zhou Ting. Brutal and cruel. The money you gave me is already mine. Dream on if you think you can get it back now. You're just a filthy whore. Did you really think I loved you? A cheap slut who threw herself at me the first time we met. If loan sharks kill you for not paying, that's your fate, nothing to do with me. When men turn heartless, they're crueler than women. When my sister was nearly beaten to death, security arrived just in time to stop it. One goes to the hospital, the other goes to jail. 14. Sister's love-struck brain finally got a wake-up call, but the cost was permanent paralysis, unable to move below the neck. Fortunately, the money was recovered, and after mom and dad sold the house, land, and all their assets, they barely managed to pay it back. The more biased they were before, the more regretful they are now. They simply sent my sister to a nursing home and abandoned her. As her biological younger sister, it's only natural for me to go and express my condolences and concern. Her hospital room was filled with a foul odor. Lying naked from the waist down for easy cleaning of excretions, his cloudy eyes stared blankly out the window, his body so emaciated it was just skin and bones. In what should have been the blossoming prime of youth, she resembled a frail old woman on the verge of death. The moment she saw me, her face contorted into a vicious snarl as she spat venomously. Did you come to laugh at me? Let me tell you, even if I'm suffering, you're no better off than I am. So what if you're rich? Pei Siua doesn't love you at all. You'll be living like a widow for the rest of your life. How pathetic. I flaunted the 10-carat pink diamond ring on my ring finger. I sneered and said, oh really? What a coincidence. Not only am I rich, but Pei Siua absolutely adores me. This ring, he bid over 30 million for it at an auction just for me. And this imperial green jade bracelet, you must have seen it before, right? It's the heirloom of the Pei family matriarch. You can call me Chairwoman Lin from now on, or perhaps, Madam Pei. I've achieved the wealthy family status you desired on my own, and as for the long-awaited love you hoped for, I've obtained that too. The elder sister suddenly thought of something and began screaming hysterically. Have you also been reborn? When exactly were you reborn? I smiled faintly and spoke deliberately. Of course, it was the day you told mom and dad you wanted to take over the company. Sis, you're truly foolish. With the advantage of rebirth's knowledge gap and the blueprint of me inheriting our parents' company in your previous life, you still managed to run it into the ground. Your meeting with Zhou Ting at the bar wasn't accidental either. It was meticulously arranged by me. Who knew you'd stumble over the same stone twice? Sister's eyes turned bloodshot as she screamed like a madwoman. Lin Wanwan, you vile woman, you'll die a horrible death. You're certainly going to hell. I curled my lips in a cold smile, my eyes icy and detached. Whether I'll die horribly remains to be seen, but your remaining days will be worse than death. For dear sister's sake, I specifically invested in this sanatorium. I do hope you'll endure it well, given this chance to choose again. How could she possibly change her mind so easily just because of a few words from mother? This, ignoring the hysterical curses from my sister behind me, quite pleasing to the ear. 15, just stepped out of the sanatorium and saw the Rolls-Royce Phantom parked at the entrance. The car door opened, revealing Pei Siyu's perfect figure outlined by his impeccably tailored suit, took the initiative to carry my bag. His expression still cool and detached, yet his eyes were filled with tenderness. You mentioned last time you wanted to buy a plot of land by the sea. I auctioned one for you today. Let me take you to see it. This is how a domineering CEO expresses love. He may not be one for sweet nothings, but whenever I face work issues, he's always the first to provide the optimal solution. He's a slow-to-warm-up person, deeply dedicated and passionate about his work. So it's easy to make him like you, just share his passion for work. He admires independent and thoughtful women. 2 years later, the company went public, and I suddenly became a female billionaire worth tens of billions, truly living up to that saying. I am the wealthy family myself. I specifically asked the nurse to read aloud the magazines and newspapers featuring me to my sister. When she saw the photo in the newspaper of Pei Siyue gazing at me with deep affection from the audience, she was absolutely furious. TSK, how petty. I had already forgotten about Zhou Ting. But then I saw him in the legal news. He previously served 2 years in prison for severely assaulting his younger sister, and after his release, he became a male escort in a business KTV, entering the underground world. His looks were decent, his physique was good, and he had many tricks up his sleeve, so many wealthy women were willing to spend money on him. In the end, he was drugged by 3 wealthy older women and was literally played to death. The news caused a sensation for a while. Although Zhou Ting died, he became a laughingstock in everyone's mouths. Serves you right. Story 2. I was reborn on the day he confessed his love to me. The school bully suddenly stopped and stared at me with wide eyes. I immediately realized that my husband had been reborn with me as well. He let out a cold laugh and then turned to confess his love to the campus belle beside me. I rolled my eyes and turned to stare at the campus heartthrob whom I hadn't seen for 50 or 60 years. I really still prefer this type. 1. Before being reborn, I was still arguing with Xie Qinyuan. At his 80th birthday banquet, our granddaughter found a group photo from my old wallet. Comparing it with him, she said, "Grandpa, you were so gentle when you were young." I didn't say anything, and Xie Qinyuan smiled. The person in the photo wasn't him at all. We started arguing as soon as we were alone at night. "Jiang Yujing, if you don't want to live together, then don't. Fine. We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Whoever doesn't go this time is a dog." Such conversations had occurred hundreds of times during the duration of our marriage as an old couple, only this time was different. In the middle of the night, I suddenly felt like I couldn't breathe. Before I could wake Xie Qinyuan up, I passed out. When I opened my eyes again, the young Xie Qinyuan was standing right in front of me. The surrounding were my high school classmates, having a party in a KTV. There was also a cake on the table. What was going on? Xie Qinyuan stopped halfway through his words, and his expression suddenly changed. He stared at me in disbelief. With just one look, we both understood that we had been reborn together. This was the day when he confessed his love to me at the age of 17. Coincidentally, just before this, I had been brutally rejected by my crush. On a whim, I agreed to Xie Qinyuan's confession and even forcefully kissed him. And it was right in front of my crush. It was a long time later that I found out that this day was actually when Xie Qinyuan lost a game of truth or dare. It was understandable. After all, I was ordinary in high school, with big black-rimmed glasses, thick bangs, and braces. I only wore my school uniform jacket or short sleeves. Although Xie Qinyuan fooled around all day and didn't study well, he was good-looking and tall. which made him popular with girls. He was a well-known figure in school. It would be unreasonable if he really liked me. Sure enough, this guy closed his mouth, let out a cold laugh, and then turned to confess his love to the campus belle sitting next to me. I also let out a cold laugh, taking advantage of holding a wine glass. I carefully peeked at today's birthday boy, my childhood friend, Nan Bayu, whom I had been secretly in love with for 10 years. Great, now we really can't stay together. It's even better this way. Saving us the trouble of going to the Civil Affairs Bureau, it must be that the heavens pitted us, a pair of quarrelsome old couple, and gave us a chance to find new good partners. Right now, we should still focus on our studies, the campus belle said with a bashful look and lowered her head. But if it's you, Xia, I think we can give it a try first. Xia Qingyuan was taken aback and exchanged a glance with me. I saw him smile and say to the campus belle, okay, fine, great, couldn't be better. I gritted my teeth in anger because Xia Qingyuan had taken the lead before me. I secretly clenched my fists and decided to chase after Nan Bayu. The next day, the school officially started the summer vacation. I invited Nan Bayu 3 times, but he refused me each time. The 4th time, the more I thought about it while lying in bed, the angrier I got. In the middle of the night, I climbed over to his house next door and knocked on his window. He wasn't asleep either. Seeing that I wouldn't give up until I achieved my goal, he could only open the window with a helpless expression. I pushed aside the vines and stuck my face in. Nan Bayu, you can't stop playing with me just because I like you. He was drinking water and choked on my words. He turned his head awkwardly and tried to defend himself. I really need to do some tutoring. I don't have time, but I asked your younger brother, and he said you don't have any classes on Sundays. I pouted and said sadly, are you going to break off our friendship? Nan Bayu's eyes flickered slightly. He lowered his head and looked at me quietly for a while. I felt itchy as the green leaves rubbed against my neck. After a long while, he compromised. Okay, see you tomorrow. I immediately turned from sad to happy and cheered. Yay, then I'll wait for you at the entrance of the community at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. This date with Nan Bayu was very important to me. After graduating from high school, his family moved away, and I lost all contact with him. I couldn't even get any news about him. Nan Bayu was like a dream from my youth, a regretful yet beautiful and illusory memory. I took off my braces and glasses and started learning how to dress myself up. When I was bathed in the praise of those around me, I often thought of him. He had never seen me when I was beautiful. The next day, I carefully got myself ready. I put on the little white dress I had prepared long ago and sprayed on a light white tea perfume. When I saw Nan Bayu approaching from a distance, I stood beside the fountain, letting the sunlight shine on the more beautiful side of my face. The wind also blew just right. I tucked the hair beside my ear behind it and smiled at him with my lips pursed. I was satisfied to see the word amazed in his eyes. However, my good mood only lasted until we reached the entrance of the shopping mall. After discovering Xia Qingyuan and the campus belle, I came to an abrupt stop and tried to drag Nan Bayu away, but it was still a step too late. Yujing, Bayu, what a coincidence. The campus belle smiled and came over. I couldn't believe it when I saw you just now. Yujing, you look really beautiful today. I forced a smile. Haha, no, not really. Well, if there's nothing else, the campus belle grabbed my sleeve. Since we've met, let's have lunch together. Li Yanran winked at me. I realized that she might have had a quarrel with Xia Qingyuan and didn't want to be alone with him. Sister, your smooth road is blocked, but don't ruin my single plank bridge. I looked at Nan Bayu, and he said it was okay. I glanced at Xia Qingyuan, and he said he would listen to Li Yanran. What else could I do? I had to compromise. We met 4 or 5 more good classmates in the shopping mall. In the end, our beautiful date for 2 turned into a big gathering of classmates. However, things could always get worse, not just bad. In the elevator, did you take your medicine? Xia Qingyuan glanced at my neck. I was bitten by a bug among the vines yesterday, and there were hives on it. I was speechless. Of course I did. Do I look like an idiot? It's hard to say. You once. I coughed loudly, and Xia Qingyuan shut up. At the dining table, I was quick-handed and scalded a pair of bowls and chopsticks for Xia Qingyuan. Everyone around fell silent at the same time. I calmly scalded the bowls and chopsticks of the others as well. Xia Qingyuan peeled a shrimp and, by accident, threw it into my bowl. He paused for a moment and then calmly picked it back up. After walking out of the restaurant, Xia Qingyuan suddenly rummaged through his pockets. Hiss, wife, have you seen my phone? I immediately rummaged through my bag as well. It's not with me. Everyone stopped in their tracks. I lowered my head inch by inch, wishing I could crawl into the ground in front of me. Damn it, if I could do it all over again, I would rather die than submit. 2. The hateful Xie Qinyuan held back his laughter and ruffled my hair. Everyone has gone downstairs. What are you still squatting for? Oh. These tiles are really exquisitely laid, fitting together perfectly. The smooth floor reflected my blushing face. 3. Yujing. Are you really secretly married to the handsome Xie? I spat out a mouthful of salt soda. A random passerby suddenly popped up on my left and enthusiastically added, no. Do those who spread rumors have any common sense? They're not even old enough to get married legally yet. I wiped my mouth and nodded in great agreement. This guy continued. They're clearly betrothed since childhood. Stop. A passerby passionately joined in. No. What I heard was that she's a child bride. I roared. I said stop. After a summer vacation of fermentation, the gossip about us two had evolved to an unbearable degree, but it didn't matter. We would deal with whatever came our way. Xie Qinyuan and I were determined to go our separate ways for the rest of our lives. I found a small megaphone beside the track. I do have a deep relationship with Xie Qinyuan. Oh. I smiled enigmatically and continued, there was almost one less person in my household registration book because of him. We are sworn enemies. Everyone was stunned. So, all the rumored ambiguous stories about me and him that you've heard are false. I didn't tell all lies. Back then, Xie Qinyuan had an accident on the way to pick me up from work. I was in a relatively good condition, but Xie Qinyuan fainted on the spot. After the examination, the doctor showed me the report and told me not to worry, that the baby was fine. What baby? Where did the baby come from? What did he mean that I almost lost both my life and the baby's? Fortunately, your husband reacted in time and turned the steering wheel towards you. Otherwise, it would have been hard to say, the doctor said. However, Xie Qinyuan suffered a craniocerebral injury and was left with the problem of his arm occasionally trembling. It had to be his hand. And he was a painter. That night, I stayed by his hospital bed and called my parents, saying that I might get married. Over the years, I had been very grateful to him, but there was only family affection between us, not love, because we both had other people in our hearts. We were together just because of the right timing. Two puppies soaked in the rain decided to walk together. One day, a friend of Xie Qinyuan's asked me to pick him up. He was drunk for some unknown reason. He hugged me and mistook me for his friend. I really like her so much. This was the first time I heard him speak in such a regretful and aggrieved tone. I couldn't help but ask, who? In front of everyone, Xie Qinyuan opened his eyes and looked at me. He pressed his forehead against mine and smiled. It's definitely not you. There was a portrait in the safe in his study. I lifted the cover and saw half of it. The girl in the painting was wearing a princess dress with a huge skirt. I quietly put the cover back down. I had never worn such a dress, not even a similar wedding dress. Because we only got the marriage certificate and didn't have a wedding. No matter how grudging I was about something, as long as there was enough time, there would always come a day when I would let it go. When I was young and inexperienced, I also thought that a marriage without love was pitiful. However, in the mundane world, there aren't that many earth-shattering love stories. In the bits and pieces of daily life with trivial matters like firewood, rice, oil, and salt, it turned out that family affection was more important. It was enough that we were important to each other. As for whether we were the most important, let's stop there. I had always wondered who the person he liked was. And now I could more or less guess. It should be Li Yanran. I even guessed that it was because the lights in the KTV were too dim, and Li Yanran and I were sitting too close together. He mistook me for her for a moment and ended up making the wrong choice for a lifetime. Xie Qinyuan was proud yet timid. I'm afraid that the moment he confessed during the truth or dare game had already used up all his courage. How could he have the strength to correct his mistake? Xie Qinyuan came to the class with a stern face and asked me to meet him in the art room after school. After spending the whole morning explaining to everyone in detail to deepen the impression that Xie Qinyuan and I were at odds, when I returned to my seat, someone actually asked me if I was going to have a fight and if I needed any help. I was quite pleased. You said you would help me chase Li Yanran. How are you going to do it? You also said you would help me chase Nam Baiyu. Do you have any ideas? We saw contempt in each other's eyes. Neither of us had any experience in chasing someone, so we had to turn to Baidu for help. It says here that the first step in pursuing someone is to express your feelings to the other person, and the most romantic and innocent way to confess is writing a love letter. Xie Qinyuan was puzzled. We've already confessed. Do we still need to write a love letter? I was confused. Well, how about we write one? Following the problem-solving steps shouldn't be wrong, so, we sat facing a piece of white paper for half an hour each. Xie Qinyuan threw the paper away. TSK, I can't write it, it's too mushy. I was interrupted from my meditation and looked up. The transparent dust in the art room was floating and drifting in the evening sun. Xie Qingyuan twirled a pen in one hand and rubbed the back of his neck with the other hand freely. There was a circle of fine fluff on his neck, making him look warm and bright. My partner, my old friend. I sincerely hoped that he would get what he wanted. I said, Xie Qingyuan, we've been given a second chance. Be brave this time. He looked up, and his amber eyes stared straight at me. I will. Then, he thought for a moment and started writing smoothly. As for me, I still had no clue. Looking at the words on his paper from a distance, I suddenly felt a little annoyed. Yujing, my deskmate, Li Yanran, poked me. I raised my head from the sea of problems. What's up? Humph. I don't know where Xie Qingyuan copied a love letter from. It doesn't make any sense and has nothing to do with me at all. Look, I took it with confusion. Aren't love letters all about similar sweet words? What kind of writing style is it when it doesn't make any sense? After reading just a few sentences, my brain completely froze. What are you looking at? Your face is so red. Xie Qingyuan suddenly appeared and asked me softly above my head. I'm reading a porn book. Don't bother me. I clumsily covered the table with a book, feeling that my ears were starting to get hot. That's right, Xie Qingyuan must have copied it from somewhere else. Don't be too narcissistic. He wrote like this, I like you, not just in the time that hasn't happened yet, not just in the time when you're looking at someone else, not just at this moment, not just in the future. I have so many words that I haven't said yet. I really want to spend another lifetime telling you, while checking your white hair and wrinkles. I want to tell you frankly and passionately. However, I'm a coward and only dare to think secretly in places where you can't see. Xie Qingyuan knocked on my desk and leaned close to my ear, which was heating up, and said, what's the second step in pursuing someone again? 5. A passerby intervened and patted Xie Qingyuan on the shoulder. Student Xie. School bullying is a very despicable behavior. Then, Xie Qingyuan was chased out with a look of disbelief on his face. 6. Li Yanran had a knowing smile on her face beside me. I covered my ears and thought calmly that something seemed wrong. I couldn't figure it out. I might as well do some exercises first. Conic sections were still easy to understand. This so-called time travel couldn't possibly break my myth of being the top student in high school for 3 consecutive years. Yes. I had a huge sense of pride. Xie Qingyuan asked me to tutor him in his studies. With him, I now had 3 apprentices. The other 2 were Li Yanran and the class monitor sitting behind me. The second step in pursuing someone was to create close contact. Every Saturday and Sunday, the 4 of us, master and apprentices, would find a coffee shop in the city center and have tutoring sessions away from others. While the class monitor was going to the restroom, I casually asked Xie Qingyuan, did you really write that love letter yourself? Xie Qingyuan turned his head awkwardly. Well, I borrowed a complete collection of love letters from the library and just randomly flipped to a page and copied it. Thud. Li Yanran kicked Xie Qingyuan hard under the table. I turned my head to the side and pretended not to notice. I lowered my head and said oh in a flat tone. Which high school library would have a complete collection of love letters? The class monitor sat down and said, the autumn sports meeting will be held in a few days. Yanran, we might still have to trouble you to hold the class sign. In a flash, the portrait in Xie Qingyuan's safe suddenly flashed through my mind. I remembered that princess dress was the one Li Yanran wore at this autumn sports meeting. Xie Qingyuan, without a care for his own safety, handed over the test paper. I think I can score over 100 this time. I glanced at it. What kind of fancy font is this? Write it in Hingshui style for me. Rewrite it. Xie Qingyuan followed me all the way. Seeing that we were almost at the community, I couldn't help but shoo him away. Why haven't you gone back yet? He looked upright. I'm on the way. Sometimes I really want to open his head and see what's inside. Don't I know where his home is? Suddenly, his face changed. I followed his gaze and saw Nanbaiyu. You're in a hurry to get rid of me so you can go find Nanbaiyu. I won't stop you. Xie Qingyuan. The number 1 in not learning from his mistakes. Me. The number 1 in handling arrogance. I took a few steps back and watched as his face gradually turned sour. Do you want me to go to him? I'll listen to you. Then, yes or no? Xie Qingyuan gritted his teeth. No. I covered his mouth. Don't say it. I'm just afraid you don't even understand it yourself. The best way to deal with someone who is stubborn and won't admit the truth is not to force him to say it, but to make him hold it back when he finally makes up his mind. Xie Qingyuan successfully walked me to my doorstep. After saying goodbye, he finally couldn't help but ask, you said you'd listen to me. Does that mean you won't chase Nanbaiyu anymore? I looked at his back that was trying to hide his true feelings with candor. Yeah, I won't chase him for now. If I myself am still wavering, I will never do the thing of pestering others. I thought that the position of Nan Bayu in my heart, after 50 years of self-hypnosis like a fit of pique, had long become an unbreakable white moonlight. Unexpectedly, it was so easily shaken by just a few words from a coward. 7. So why were you suddenly angry yesterday? I motioned for Xie Qingyuan to lean in and whispered word by word. I won't say. This is called fighting violence with violence. It's definitely not because I'm stubborn too. 8. Yanran. The person who makes clothes is in the office and is asking you to go and get measured. Li Yanran was lying on the desk, writing her homework furiously. She freed one hand and patted me. Yujing, your figure is similar to mine. Go and get measured for me. I didn't suspect anything and got up and went. Nan Bayu was also in the office getting measured, following the tailor's instructions one by one. He spread his arms and stood still. His jade-like profile and elegant figure made him look extremely obedient. When he cast his gaze towards me, I just nodded as a greeting, walked to the side and waited, not saying anything more. He was taken aback and silently retracted his gaze. An inexplicably awkward atmosphere spread in the office. I silently stared at the star Ken on the office desk. Lost in thought, because we lived close by and were of similar age, I had been acquainted with Nan Bayu since I was still wetting the bed. My parents were very busy with work and often left me alone at home. I often carried a small stool and knocked on his window. He was a person very different from me and Xie Qingyuan. Even when we were in our old age, we were still childish and impulsive. Nan Bayu, on the other hand, had been quiet and reliable since childhood. I liked the faint scent of medicine on him, the gentle voice when he read me bedtime stories, and the gentle gaze I would meet when I turned around and saw him looking at me. Origami stars were popular in our primary school class. I clumsily folded my first star, although it was crooked. I wanted to give it to Nan Bayu, but his desk was already piled high with many delicate and colorful little stars given by others. I retracted my hand. At that time, I thought that everyone liked him. And I didn't want to be one of the many. A week later, my parents went on a business trip and left me alone at home for the night. The thunder that was so close woke me up. Outside the window, it was as dark as ink, the basin overturned, and the lightning illuminated this empty and silent home and me, who was holding the quilt and didn't dare to make a sound. I reached out to touch the light switch, but there was a power outage. Nan Bayu knocked on my door at this time, holding a small umbrella and earmuffs, to coax me to sleep. When I was sound asleep, he whispered, "Wait for me a moment." I fought off my sleepiness and waited for him, half asleep and half awake. I saw Nan Bayu place a glass jar filled with paper stars on my bedside. You looked at those stars for a long time that day. You should really like them. The small lights around the jar flickered, and it was as if the stars were looking at me. So many people looked at it, but it was looking at me alone. I hugged it and slipped into the quilt. "Don't be afraid," he stroked my head. "The stars will always be by your side." I don't know when it started, but Nan Bayu gradually distanced himself from me. I no longer saw him every time I turned around, and I no longer waited for the person who would come and coax me to sleep in the pouring rain on a stormy night, out of an eagerness to hold on to him. I confessed my love to him and was rejected. Later, I got together with Xie Qingyuan, and I drifted further and further away from Nan Bayu. He didn't say goodbye to me on the day he moved. It rained all night. When I opened the window the next morning, I found a paper star on the windowsill that had been soaked by the rain, and ink marks could be seen inside. I carefully unfolded it and saw a sentence written on it: "Let's forget each other." 9. I walked out of the office and found Nan Bayu waiting for me outside. "Yujing, recently you..." He pursed his lips and didn't say anything more. I knew he wanted to ask why I had been so cold to him recently. I asked him in return, "Do you consider me a friend? If so, why did you leave without saying goodbye and cut off all contact?" I didn't say anything more either. Jiang Yujing at the age of 18 had been eager to know the answer to this question, but Jiang Yujing at the age of 80 had already let it go. Perhaps I just wanted to meet him again and know that he was all right, that's all. He lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry, I just didn't want to trouble you. As a friend, I didn't do a good job in many aspects." "It doesn't matter," I heard Jiang Yujing at the age of 18 say. "I accept your apology." Strangely, in my memory, it was Xie Qingyuan who held the flag for our class this time. Surely Xie Qingyuan likely Yanran at that time and used some means to replace Nan Bayu, with their two ostentatious faces standing in our class. One wearing a princess dress and the other wearing a knight's uniform. At first glance, they looked like a newlywed couple and attracted a lot of attention. I stood at the back of the line and could occasionally hear some words of admiration from the crowd. "They're so well matched." Xie Qingyuan looked back from a distance and raised his eyebrows at me proudly, with the words written all over his face. "Your boyfriend is handsome, right, Sai? Who wasn't a playboy who dreamed of having the best of both worlds when they were young?" My hands itch. I have to go and beat him up right now, in front of many classmates. I completed this act of campus violence, and Xie Qingyuan dared not speak out in anger. On the day of the autumn sports meeting, Li Yanran slipped away, and I was clearly set up, wearing a white and fluffy princess dress that I hadn't worn in 2 lifetimes. I stood at the entrance of the playground waiting for Nan Baiyu. Just as our class was about to enter the field, a figure came running from afar. The knight's uniform outlined his waist. The badge on his shoulder was not as dazzling as his shining eyes. He ran all the way to me, bent over, and took a breath. Xie Qingyuan raised his head and held out his hand to me. "Let's go. Everyone is waiting for us." I walked in a daze for a while, and it was the class monitor who couldn't stand it anymore. "Bro, you were invited to hold the flag, not to hold the bride's hand and attend a wedding." We immediately pulled our hands apart at the same time and stood in formation, 1 meter apart. "Why is it you again? Who else did you expect?" I asked the class monitor why he invited him to hold the flag. Well, Nan Baiyu had something urgent to attend to at the last minute, and there was only this guy wandering around nearby. He also asked me if I needed help, so I let him do it. I said sarcastically, "Well, classmate Xia is as warm-hearted as ever." "No," Xie Qingyuan interrupted. "This time, I just wanted to stand by your side. Today's sunlight was too intense, making people blush." Vaguely, some words came from the crowd. "They're so well matched." "Right. I've been shipping this love-hate couple for a long time. Come on, I'll add you to the group." I twitched the corners of my mouth. "Really? Would you say anyone is well matched with Xie Qingyuan even if there was a dog standing next to him?" 10. I was correcting Xie Qingyuan's composition when he suddenly knocked on my head. "TSK, sit up straight when you write." Xie Qingyuan frowned and lifted my chin that was almost touching the paper. "I suspect that your later cervical spondylosis is related to your bad habits at this time." "Oh no, he's taken the upper hand." I mumbled, "Wordy old man." Xie Qingyuan's hand that was about to let go paused. He pinched my chin and shook it from side to side. "Who's the wordy old man?" "There's only the most dashing old man here." I forced a smile. "Okay, old man." 3 days later, Xie Qingyuan mysteriously asked me to meet him at the courier station. When I saw the standard shopping mall massage chair, my eyes went dark. Dang 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 dang. Early detection, early treatment. I specially chose the one with the most complete functions for you. What do you think? Do you like it? Where am I going to put it, bro? Put it in the dormitory. Later, I'll deliver it to your door. I pasted your payment code on it. When you're not using it, you can even let it earn some pocket money. Really? Will anyone actually use it? No. Who's short of this little pocket money? There are too many things to snark about. Don't you like it? I retracted my wandering gaze and nodded. I like it. Xie Qingyuan smiled proudly and ticked it off in his plan book. The third step in pursuing someone, give the other person the most thoughtful gift. Fortunately, as a first-class high school, the dormitory has plenty of space. Otherwise, it really wouldn't be able to handle it. Wow, so comfortable. How can you do this? You've already sat on it twice. Get up quickly. There are still people waiting in line. I received an Alipay notification of a payment late at night. I opened my eyes and silently wondered if opening a massage parlor in a national key high school could become a popular business opportunity. Xie Qingyuan, as expected of you, this was a free evening self-study session. I propped my head up and looked at Li Yanran, who took out her wrong question notebook and found something to do for herself. You're being Xie Qingyuan's wingman. Do you really not like him at all? Li Yanran put down the notebook and thought for a while. Do you think I'm pretty? She turned her face directly towards me. Her skin was as smooth as fat, and her features were delicate. I nodded affirmatively. Li Yanran pursed her lips and smiled. I don't have a talent for studying. My grades aren't as good as yours. And I'm not an art student like Xie Qingyuan. I really don't have the energy for a relationship. I want to stay beautiful all the time. And I also want a future that is calm and not controlled by my looks. Besides, Li Yanran winked playfully. Not everyone treasures Xie Qingyuan as much as you do. I silently covered my face. Vaguely, I remembered that someone in the class group said something about the campus belle from back then a long time after graduation. An insider said that they saw her in Los Angeles with a yacht and that she had even kept several foreign handsome guys whose looks were comparable to Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm envious. The back door was pushed open a crack. A student cadre who was on good terms with the class monitor whispered, "The school is going to search the dormitories." Before I could react, the class monitor behind me looked up and shocked, "Damn, what about my popcorn machine?" Passerby A, my mahjong table. Passerby B, my firework tube. It seems that everyone has been going really wild in private. My massage chair is completely insignificant now. The problem is, I don't remember there being a dormitory inspection at all. Just as I was about to hurry and join the team going back to the dormitory to hide the evidence, I glanced at the date on the blackboard, and my scalp went numb. No wonder I hadn't seen Xie Qinyuan around me all day. How could I have forgotten this day? I opened my phone and saw that Xie Qinyuan had called me 9 times and sent more than a dozen messages an hour ago. The last message was, "I still don't dare to go alone." I took a deep breath and quickly grabbed a roommate. "I have something urgent and can't go back. Can you?" My roommate's eyes were determined. "Leave the massage chair to me." While calling Xie Qinyuan, I took the stairs 2 or 3 steps at a time. 11. At the company's 10th anniversary celebration, the reporter asked Xie Qinyuan, who was the boss, a few entertainment questions backstage. One of them was, if you could go back in time, what would be the thing you most wanted to do? The people around were all guessing whether it would be to buy a house in the capital or to make a fortune by shorting stocks before the bubble economy burst. After thinking about it, he gave an answer, "I want to become a brave person." Everyone laughed, and the reporter praised him for being cute, but I couldn't laugh. Xie Qinyuan's father died when he was 17, he didn't go to see him for the last time. Instead, he just sat in a bridge cave not far from the hospital in a daze. Out of humanitarianism, I accompanied him and endured the cold wind for an hour until the city lights went out. In the dark, he asked me very softly, "Is a child a bond between parents, or is it a chain?" His parents had a marriage without love, and each of them had their own family outside. Xie Qinyuan was an unwanted child, born at the center of interests and in the blind spot of love, so, he understood at a very young age that love was the thing in this world that was closest to a lie. It had to be exchanged for with tears and disproved with wounds. When he was a child, his grandfather told him the story of Ma Liang and his magic brush. Little Xie Qinyuan's eyes sparkled, and he fell in love with painting just like that. 2 years later, a master praised his sketches for their abundant vitality and his exceptional talent. However, little Xie Qinyuan was in a gloomy mood. His grandfather asked him what was wrong, and he said, "What on earth do I have to paint like to turn what I want into reality?" His grandfather said, "Whatever you want, Grandpa will buy it for you." Little Xie Qinyuan shook his head. He had asked for many things before, but he had never gotten them. As he grew older, he seemed to realize that earnestly conveying his wishes to others was an extremely dangerous act. His naive thoughts, childish requests, and urgent expectations would all turn into sharp blades stabbing at himself in the face of unfulfilled wishes. After hearing his grandfather's words, I made up my mind to make up for the lack of family affection he had experienced on behalf of Xie Qinyuan's parents and take care of him as if he were a child. However, I wasn't mature either. More often than not, we took care of and supported each other amidst our squabbles. We walked a very, very long path together like this. He was a coward who was even afraid of happiness and could get hurt even when touching cotton. He was also my most precious little hedgehog. And this little hedgehog was now blatantly exposing its soft belly in front of me. He knew that I wouldn't hurt him, never. Xie Qinyuan stood at the stairway. When he saw me coming down, he said, "Accompany me, wife." The class monitor jumped out from behind me, caught in the act. Passerby A, lovers in adultery. Passerby B, a harmonious union lasting 100 years. I pulled Xie Qinyuan and covered my face as we fled. "You old rascal, I told you not to shout like that." There was another family surrounding his father. Xie Qinyuan firmly held my hand, pushed through the crowd, and amidst their surprise and whispers, placed a bouquet of flowers wrapped in drawing paper. On the drawing paper was the most satisfying family portrait that little Xie Qinyuan had ever drawn. After walking out of the hospital, Xie Qinyuan seemed to be completely relieved. We leaned against the familiar bridge cave and felt the wind blowing until the city was illuminated by the moon. He said softly, "I want to confess something." I looked at him, thinking that it was probably about how he had likely yen ran in his previous life and later transferred his affection to me. He took me back to school and went to the art room. He lifted a covered painting. It was a portrait of me wearing black-rimmed glasses, with thick bangs, and in the princess dress with the huge skirt that I wore at the autumn sports meeting. His gaze was softer than the moonlight. "This is the second time I've painted this picture. the last time I stood in front of everyone with others and listened to their praises, I was thinking about how great it would be if the person by my side was you. Everyone would know what a well-matched couple we are. And you would know it too. I stared stupidly at this painting until Xie Qinyuan wiped away my tears. You're the stupidest fool I've ever seen. I poked his chest and scolded him angrily. Extra story. About the things that Xie Qinyuan wouldn't confess. That day, Xie Qinyuan ran into Jiang Yujing confessing her love to the birthday celebrant in the corridor of the KTV. Forgive him for just being dragged along by his friends to join in the fun, and he didn't even remember the birthday celebrant's name at all. That little girl looked so delicate and small. How could she be so bold? Xie Qinyuan thought to himself. I'm sorry. I don't want to be in a relationship right now. Jiang Yujing blocked Nan Baiyu and wouldn't let him leave. Nan Baiyu said helplessly, I'm really sorry. Whatever you want, I can compensate you for it. Jiang Yujing looked straight into Nan Baiyu's eyes frankly and straightforwardly. I want us to make up. I want you to stop avoiding me and distancing yourself from me for no reason. Since you don't like me, then I want us to be good friends for a lifetime. Can you do that? Nan Baiyu averted her gaze. And there was an awkward silence in the corridor. Xie Qinyuan even started to feel sorry for her. I won't be sad, Jiang Yujing said with her neck stuck out, looking angry. It was you who made the promise, and it's you who can't fulfill it. You should feel sorry for yourself. Xie Qinyuan was taken aback and poked his head out to take a look at Jiang Yujing. She pouted as if she was about to cry but still said she wasn't sad. Her chin was pointed, and her neck was thin and white. Dazzlingly white. Brother Xia lost. Hurry up. Someone come up with a tough idea. I'll say it. Brother Xia should go to the girls' table and randomly pick someone to confess to. The bottle mouth turned towards him, and his train of thought was suddenly interrupted. Xie Qinyuan frowned. The others realized they had been drinking too much and started speaking without thinking, and they fell silent all of a sudden. Sorry, Brother Xia. Forget it. Xie Qinyuan stood up and confirmed with them. I lost at truth or dare and need to go over there and confess to someone. Right. The one who started it nodded blankly, so Xie Qinyuan walked step by step towards Jiang Yujing, thinking, it's just because of the truth or dare. I can't spoil their fun. At most, I just want to get to know her a bit, or I just didn't see her eyes clearly just now, and I just want to see them clearly. With such thoughts in mind, Xie Qinyuan was able to blurt out that sentence very smoothly. Jiang Yujing looked at him in surprise. Remembering that Nan Baiyu was watching, she steeled herself and agreed to his confession. Xie Qinyuan was stunned. How could there be such a thing as getting a wife out of the blue? No, such an inexplicable thing. It was obvious at a glance that it was a truth or dare thing. His wife. No. Jiang Yujing even leaned in and kissed him. This time he saw clearly. Her eyes were very beautiful. Her lips were soft, and she smelled nice. He only had one thought. It's a pity that the woman I'm destined to be with doesn't like me. When Xie Qinyuan was 32 years old, he discovered Jiang Yujing's star jar and secretly used the connections of his family to help her inquire about Nan Baiyu's news. The result was very surprising. Nan Baiyu was diagnosed with a hereditary cerebral arterial disease in his first year of high school. There was no possibility of curing this disease, once it flared up. He would only have 20 to 30 years of life left. In the later stages, there would be limb incoordination, and he would even have symptoms similar to Alzheimer's disease. Remembering Nan Baiyu who suddenly fainted in the changing room on the day of the autumn sports meeting, Xie Qinyuan realized that this was the truth behind his leaving without saying goodbye. He put the information into the shredder, rather than letting her be sad about her white moonlight ending up in such a situation. It would be better to let her think that Nan Baiyu was living a happy life, just having forgotten her. When Xie Qinyuan was 80 years old, he found that Jiang Yujing beside him had stopped breathing. He quietly took out sleeping pills from the bedside table. He only had one thought. It would be great if I could be with Jiang Yujing for another 60 years. When he opened his eyes, he actually really returned to more than 60 years ago. Xie Qinyuan was facing Li Yanran, and Jiang Yujing was looking at Nan Baiyu, but his eyes involuntarily glanced at Jiang Yujing's profile. I've liked you for a long time. Very, very long. He blurted out this sentence again, in a place where Jiang Yujing couldn't see. Fine, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Whoever doesn't go this time is a dog. However, in fact, their first encounter dates back even earlier. At the second General Assembly in the first year of high school, Jiang Yujing, as the first in the midterm exam results, needed to go on stage to share her learning experience, and Xie Qinyuan, as the one with the most disciplinary violations, needed to go on stage to make a self-criticism. Jiang Yujing held a speech script in her hand, and Xie Qingyuan held breakfast in his hand. The two of